Explore new markets, gain market access, expand your business to one of Africa's largest economies. Dubai Week in Africa, the event that will bring Dubai to Kenya. Listen to industry experts, sign up for B2B meetings. Let's grow together. Let's explore the untapped potential that is Kenya. Let's feed Africa's growing appetite for products made in Dubai. We are the best, so join the best. This is Dubai Week in Africa, your gateway to East Africa. Explore new markets, gain market access, expand your business to one of Africa's largest economies. Dubai Week in Africa, the event that will bring Dubai to Kenya. Listen to industry experts, sign up for B2B meetings. Let's grow together. Let's explore the untapped potential that is Kenya. Let's feed Africa's growing appetite for products made in Dubai. We are the best, so join the best. This is Dubai Week in Africa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hujambo. Your Excellencies and honorable guest speakers, partners and visitors, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Once again, I'm welcoming you all to Dubai Week in Africa. Today, we will focus on Freezone and investment. It is a great honor to welcome His Excellency Juma Al-Ket, Assistant Undersecretary of Ministry of Economy, for the opening remarks.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Excellencies, Honorable Dr. Karanja, Mr. Abdullah bin Dmeitan, Excellency Jamal Jarwan, Mahmoud Al-Bastaki, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning from United Arab Emirates. And at the outset, it is indeed a great honor to be part of the Dubai Week in Africa virtual trade mission. Honorable Dr. Karanja, it was an absolute pleasure to speak to you yesterday, and thank you for an extremely fruitful exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed to say that the history we share with Africa continent underpins much of our ties today and forms a strong catalyst of further growth between the United Arab Emirates and the Republic of Kenya. To give you a pinch of flavor of UAE's trade with Africa, despite the repercussions of COVID-19 of UAE's non-oil foreign trade with some countries of the world, UAE's non-oil foreign trade with African continent was on the rise. Non-Arab African countries account for 80% of the UAE's import from Africa. What is more, in the context of free zones, 30% of UAE non-oil foreign trade from Africa is attributed to the UAE's free zones, with a share of 68% of UAE's re-export to Africa and 33% of its export, as well as 10% of UAE's imports from Africa. And towards more specific context of Kenya, 67% of UAE's non-foreign trade with Kenya takes place through the free zones operating in the country, where 85% of UAE's re-export to Kenya arise from UAE's free zones. While in export terms, more than 50% of UAE exports are registered in the country's free zones, as well as 16% of its imports from Kenya. With the world's largest free trade area, the African continent is capitalizing on the potential of its human capital and harnessing its resources And in this slide, Kenya is one of the UAE's leading non-Arab African partners. Key sector of mutual cooperation between UAE and Kenya lie within inter alia retail, trade, renewable energy, and the increasing demand for technology and smart solutions related to communication and digital transformation of various sectors. There is also a great growth potential in the manufacturing sector. As well, tourism, entertainment, and hospitality services also equally represent an important sector for closer collaboration. As a matter of fact, the UAE is indeed already witnessing an increase in migration from Kenya, notably in professional services. This includes hotel, restaurants, cafe, catering sector, and other also. So in addition to what I have just mentioned, food and agriculture processing and the food security prospect are also tremendous. Known for its arable lands, Kenya and the African continent in the wider context offer a myriad of trade and investment opportunities. Mutual collaboration between UAE and Kenya is yet more underscored by the increasing rate of urbanization in Africa and the accompanying requirement of real estate development, infrastructure, and supportive logistics services. Through the World Logistic Passport, which my colleagues will further explore in depth with you today, logistics, as we know, has been reinvented to cover a wide palette of benefits, including reduced administrative costs, fast-tracked cargo movement, facilitated movement between ports, and much more. And these benefits have become more valuable in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, until end of year 2018, the stock of FDI inflow to the UAE from Africa amounted about 4.6 billion, out of which 62.8 million is attributed to Kenya alone. The recent issuance of the decree amending the commercial company laws, revoking the provision of onshore companies to have an Emirati shareholder, is a major step that enhance the openness of the business and investment climate in the country towards diversifying the economic base and substantially supporting SMEs. So in conclusion, I cannot stress more than that Africa in general and Kenya in particular hold a high potential for the UAE to explore synergy and novel pathways of collaboration. So much that Dubai is now one of the most popular places in the world to hold African trade events. Starting next week is the world's largest annual food and beverage trade exhibition, Gulf Food 2021, where we very much look forward to engaging with the Kenya delegation. And as the UAE crafts its future economic roadmap, we are keen to have African and Kenyan representation aboard. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies.
Thank you, Your Excellency. May I call Honorable Lawrence Macharia Karanja, Chief Administrative Secretary and Deputy Minister of Kenya Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise.
It's a good morning, everyone. Honorable Jamal Argit, the CA, the Deputy Undersecretary, ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to join you this morning on behalf of the people of Kenya. We thank you very much for organizing this week, that is Dubai Week in Africa, and we don't take it for granted. Our understanding of Dubai Week in Africa is that we are taking the people of Dubai, although virtually Kenya, so that they can also experience what potential, what opportunities are there in our country. We would want to take them through a journey of how, if you want to invest in Kenya, you can do the process and the procedures available, especially in free zones. But before we do so, we must ask ourselves three questions. Why invest in Kenya? Where would you invest in Kenya, and when to invest? One of the reasons why we always ask people that Kenya is the best place to invest is because of various reasons. One, there is availability of skilled and unskilled labor. Two, we have economic policies, laws, and regulations which are very, very suitable and encourage investment. In fact, we have laws which are specifically made to attract foreign direct for the people who would want to come and invest in Kenya. And there are various areas where one can invest. As His Excellency Jim Arcade said, we have where you can invest directly, and we also have public private partnerships, what we call PPPs. And the PPCs are the public-private partnership are mainly available in the infrastructure. That is where you can build roads, you can build ports, you can build airports. Then you agree on either how you shall reap your investment and get profit. This can be either build, operate, and transfer, or any other arrangement which we can agree as a country with our investors. The private, we have solar power available, we have wind energy, we have geothermal power, and all these are available in our country. Therefore, we take great pressure inviting you and asking you to come and invest in our country. In terms of agriculture, we have land available. We have land available and opportunities are still there. When it comes to the issue of, we have what we call the big medium developed countries. And the big four, those are areas you can invest. The first one is on food security. If you want to come and invest in agriculture, you look at food security. The second area we can invest is on universal health. In universal health, we mean if you want to invest in medical area, medicine, research, hospital, etc., etc. The third and on the affordable housing. It is an area we know you can invest in getting affordable housing. And with affordable housing, this is you can enter into public-private partnership. Finally, it's on the manufacturing area. And in manufacturing area, we have the following. We have special economic zones and export processing zone. If you are to join us in special economic zone, you get and tax reliefs and where you can recover up to 100% of your investment without taxation. We also offer we give land as an incentive to the people who want to invest. And in special economic zone, whatever you produce, you can sell it either in the domestic market or in the external market. However, for export processing zone, which are also free zones, 80% of whatever you produce goes to export and 20% can be offloaded locally. Therefore, we are urging our members from Dubai that kindly come and invest in our country. There are opportunities, land is available, labor is available, and we shall support each other. Otherwise, we thank you the organizers of this meeting because we want to tell them that if you want to get into Africa, African Free Continental Trade Area. If you want to get to East African Community, if you want to get to the Preferential Trade Area, the PTA and COMESA, then the gateway to East Africa, the gateway to Africa is Kenya. We would urge all the investors, kindly come and invest in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honorable, for your remarks. Allow me to introduce Mr. Abdallah bin Damithan, Chief Commercial Officer of DP World, for his remarks.
Good morning, Your Excellency Jamal Kate, Honorable Lawrence Karanja, our valuable friends and partner from Africa. It is really an honor to have you all participate in Dubai Week in Africa. We had a very productive session since last morning and received many valuable insights from our colleagues and partners in the industry. I hope this is the first of many interactions for us to explore trade and business opportunity between both countries. Africa is definitely the land of opportunity and is one of the most promising markets of the new millennium, which is likely to see rapid development. The recent economic expansion and large and young population make Africa an important market in the broad global context. Africa is also fast emerging as one of the most important markets for UAE. Currently, UAE is home to more than 10,000 African companies. Kenya is our important partner for UAE, as highlighted by His Excellency. We both have a sizable interest in trade, tourism, and culture. UAE is amongst the largest trade partner of Kenya, as I mentioned. The trade value, as stated earlier by His Excellency, is between UAE and Kenya is over $2.6 billion in 2019. And almost 70% of this trade is conducted through our ports, Jebel Ali port. Dubai is the third largest re-export market globally, offering Kenyan exporters to reach out to new markets via Dubai and via our Freezone jobs. Jebel Ali port is the regional largest fully functional seaport with an ability to handle any type of cargo. We connect to over 150 direct global ports. And there is a 5 weekly service to Kenya in itself. This unmatched connectivity allows us to bring and send cargo from Asia, Europe, and even Africa, easing your logistics and supply chain predictability. Ladies and gentlemen, our focus is to position ourselves as a trade enabler and support our customers and partners in the entire supply chain, connecting our assets globally. This can be done through our initiative, for example, our Hyperloop and Box Bay, in order to optimize the speed and the efficiency of the way we operate. And it could be also by providing a short haulage service to our customer from our recent acquisition in the maritime services. We truly believe in enhancing the UAE Africa connectivity, and we believe Kenya to be the gateway between Dubai and Africa. In addition to the connectivity from Jebel Ali, we have DP World presence across 50 countries, which can be at your disposal. The recent launch of UAE Africa Bridge is a testimony of our commitment to fostering the trade growth of the African companies. Our investment in itself in Kigali Inland Port and Warehouse is part of our bridge, where we would like to promote Mombasa as a gateway port for trade in East and Central Africa. We have, and we believe that Dubai and Mombasa can complement each other. We are a food-dependent nation, and here lies opportunity for Kenya's agri-industry. Kenya can be our partner on food security, and Jebel Ali remains an able gateway for the export of your tea, coffee, fruits, and vegetables. We can also support you on the supply of corn, sugar, and rice, and other commodities that cater to the Kenyan population. Through Jebel Ali, Kenyan traders can position themselves to reach out to the UAE market and over 3 billion population from India and the Middle East. Opening a market for your goods is our value proposition that we bring forward to you. If you look at jobs itself, has a market of over 99 billion per annum. This trade is all conducted by approximately 8,000 companies plus who call Jabza their home. So our plug and play infrastructure are available for the Kenyans to explore. Jabza ecosystem has been designed keeping in mind the unique need of manufacturing and trade companies. We cater to SMEs and large corporations. The pandemic has been an important learning point for us, especially on the e-commerce platform. Despite the disruptions, we remained open, we conducted business, and importantly, ensured supply chain operation smoothly. In order to explore new areas of growth, we definitely have to seize opportunity for global trade. DP World aim to achieve this with digital trade ecosystem. And on this note, I thank you all for your time to participate in this workshop. And I hope that we take advantage of this amazing opportunity, make new connections and forge new friendship, develop new business, and enable trade to flow. Thank you, and I wish you a great day ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Damisan. For our next speaker, may I call His Excellency Jamal Saif Al Jarwan, Secretary General of the UAE International Investors Council.
Good morning, Excellencies. I am very pleased to take part of this important event, and I'm glad to share with you background of the council that I represent today in this important forum. I'll have a small presentation to share with you. So if we can put that on screen, please. UAE International Investor Council is an investment facility of both government and private sectors. Blue chip companies that had exported capital from UAE for many, many years. And the next slide, please. I will, if you can slide, partly it is meant to facilitate investment across continents. UAE today is strongly positioned as an international investor that is strongly present in more than 70 markets around the world. A heritage of 50 years that we had undertaken FDI outflow out of the UAE, and no doubt being the topic of today's discussion, Africa does represent as one of the most important continents as far as UAE international investors is concerned. We have a lot at stake when it comes to investments and trade. I think my colleague, His Excellency Jum'a Al-Kate, have well present and represent to UAE from trade and investment point of view. When it comes to Kenya specifically, it is a very important market. In fact, we have decided to consider Kenya as one of the priority markets as far as FDI outflow is concerned. And we have selected Kenya as a major market going forward and post-pandemic of COVID-19 because of its geographic that we had put on the ground and the 2.6 billion of of the UAE International Investor Council, and it's very important to our council members that I will be addressing shortly. The next slide, please. Of course, one of the most important duty of UAE IIC is facilitating investment. We are not an investment arm, but rather an enabler and facilitators between countries and the UAE investors. And the next slide, please. The chairman of the council is His Excellency, the Minister of Economy, His Excellency Abdullah bin Tawq al-Mirri. He is our chairman. Along with the board of directors of UAE IIC is strongly represented by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. We have representation from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Economy and the Civil Aviation. So if you will, we have a strong partnership among the members that I will be also displaying to you who are the members in the council. Next slide, please. This one, which we already covered. As well, we can. This is an important slide I want to share with you, where you can map where UAE investment exists today. And the topic of today is Africa and Kenya specifically. We are strongly present in Africa, exceptional areas that we have not yet gone there and had made an investments. But generally speaking, you can see how important African continent does represent to us. If you look at UAE today, it is considered the #1 international investors as far as Middle East and West Asia. We have ranked #1 according to the UNCTAD in terms of how active our investors are pursuing business opportunities and investment opportunities globally. We are strongly present in the North Americas. We're strongly present in the Asian continent. And without doubt, MENA region also is well covered from our FDI outflow. And going forward, post-pandemic COVID-19, we have now updated our list of destinations as far as the investment is concerned. And I'm glad to report to the meeting that Africa still holds strong when it comes to being strategically important to the UAE, and Kenya specifically being one of the top markets that we have selected in Africa, not only in the East Africa, but from an African continent point of view. Kenya does still represent, according to many criteria that we have conducted a very detailed study recently and have concluded that Kenya still hold strong when it comes to various criteria, among which GDP growth, currency valuations, and other criteria that we have used in our study. If you look at how strong UAE investment abroad, and according to the valuations of approximate values of our assets abroad comes dollars. So this is quite a heavy investment that we have executed abroad. We have flagship companies that had done and executed an excellent presence globally. Definitely our colleague Abdullah had recently spoke about DB World and how well they've done in 50 markets. Is one of UAE flagship that had exported capital and excellence in management and port management. They have gone in 50 markets and still growing. is one of the flagship that we are very, very proud of. The next slide, please. And maybe you can skip that, talks about the volume trade, but I will end my presentation to display who are in the council. The council, again, I want to recap as a semi-government institution represented by many companies, among which a sovereign wealth fund, Mubadala, is a sovereign wealth fund is one of the top sovereign wealth fund in the world. They are members in our councils. They're looking for opportunities and growth in spite of the pandemic. I've spoken about DB World without doubt. Also, we have Abu Dhabi Port as a member with us, and also looking for potential expansion globally. And others like Etisalat in the telecom sector, Borouge in the petrochemicals, Sharaf Group in the logistic, Dubai Investments in multi-dimension fields, Dubai Holding, Majid Al Futtaim, notably one of the most active private investor coming from UAE, a well-known enterprise that had done extremely well in its investment abroad, and many others. I'm glad to have joined you on this forum. Very proud of our companies and the flagship companies, and very proud of UAE Investment. We're looking forward to establish further relationship with the Kenyan private sectors and the semi-government organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It is my honor to welcome Mr. Mahmoud Al-Bastaki, Chief Operation Officer of DT World, for his presentation, World Logistic Passport.
I'm not seen yet, right? Okay, where is the video? Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Is this the slides are on the screen? You can see. Are my slides on the screen or not yet?
Yes. Yes.
It is. It's full screen. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to be here after hearing our ex-boss, Mr. Jamal Jarwan. We used to work together in 20 years ago. It's a small world, and I was very happy to hear his voice, and thanks to Abdullah bin Dimitan as well, and His Excellency Juma Al-Kate. I'm very happy to be here today, and ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you for inviting me here today for us to speak about a World Logistics Passport. Africa is a very important partner for the UAE, and we are always looking to increase connections and trade between the two. I'm here to speak about the World Logistics Passport, a new trade and logistics policy initiative launched in Dubai, which seeks to reduce trade barriers and improve trade linkage worldwide. So my topic today will cover several areas, starting with the launch of the project. The World Logistics Passport, as I said, is a policy initiative that was launched by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, UAE Vice President and Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai. It is the key initiatives in the Silk Road strategy of Dubai government. Dubai has launched its 50-year charter, and one of the vision was to develop the Dubai Silk Road, which the WLP, the World Logistics Passport, is part of that. The WLP was launched in Davos last year in the event with key members of the international trade community and government representatives. The goal of the strategy is to increase multilateral trade flows in a disruptive time for global trade. In times of crisis such as COVID-19, international economic cooperation is more important than ever. We are looking forward to cooperate and building a stronger relationship with Africa in the future. So how does this WLP or World Logistics Passport work? In essence, the WLP is the first global freight and logistics loyalty program. It's a loyalty program. The program aims to promote enhanced trade by encouraging traders and freight forwarders to increase their trade in return for benefits. The more you trade, the higher you can go in the membership tiers. As you can see, you can start with a silver membership. If you do more trade, you can go to a golden membership. If you do more trade, you can reach a platinum. The higher you go, the more benefits you get. So how does this work in practice? The WLP program creates partnership with benefit providers like ports, airports, and customs authorities in each country. So these we refer to them as partners or benefit providers. So the WLP works with these entities to identify the pain points in the trade and logistics journey and implement benefits specifically for those WLP members. WLP members can then move up the membership tiers. As I said, you can go from silver to gold to platinum as they increase in their trade, greatly reducing time and cost of their journey with each other. So they will see a tangible benefits in their daily business of clearing cargo. As a pilot, we did 1.0 in Dubai, WLP 1.0, and last year, and it was to a great success. As you can see, we witnessed efficiency saving of up to 48 hours on the trade journey, in addition to a 40% increase in trade for pilot members. As a case for success, we look at the case of Dubai. So we are the preacher. We have to start where we preach the world, and this is our success. So we have launched what we call WLP 1.0 last year. And then the last couple of months, we have launched the WLP 2.0 with over 10 partners from Dubai, from across the entire trade and logistics ecosystems. The WLP program in Dubai now offers members nearly 70 benefits. You might not need all the benefits depending on the type of journey and type of movement, but these benefits are available whenever you as a trader or a freight forwarder require them. Completely revolutionizing trade and logistics journey. The WLP is a global trade and logistics network which aims to create more efficient and cost-effective trade. The WLP is moving quickly towards its goal of developing new South-South. So our focus is South-South network, connecting emerging trade mega hubs. We have now registered 8 countries globally to the WLP, which are Uruguay, Colombia, and Brazil in Latin America, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, and India in Asia, and of course, Senegal and South Africa in Africa. Beyond these hubs, we now have confirmed 30 partners that are airports, ports, customs, chamber of commerce, banks, insurance company, covering the entire logistic ecosystems. We have 112 benefits confirmed across the different 8 hubs. These are provided by the partners. These are, for example, bank guarantee waiving from customs. Sorry, I need to close other application. It's bothering me now. Okay. Moving to the actual members, the key ones have registered. We now have 81 what we call as anchor tenants. These are the big companies registered, namely companies like Apple, UPS, Pfizer, and so on. Overall, the global network is growing quickly, and we expect to continue registering countries to the program going forward. The WLP has to date received widespread support from partners, governments, and agencies. A few examples of the top leadership engagement that was made over the past few months: the signatures of official documents for Colombia with the Minister of Commerce, for Senegal with the Minister of Economy, for Kazakhstan with the Minister of Trade and Integration. All of this with the support of key government players in Indonesia with the Minister of Finance, in India with the Minister of Commerce and in industry, and similar support across the globe. This indicates strong visibility and strong engagement at the top level. But let's talk about the specifics now. Africa today is facing 4 key opportunities in rebuilding its trade performance over the next few years. These are: 1, recovering from the COVID-19 impact; 2, increasing intra-Africa trade; 3, improving global trade integration; 4, improving trade facilitation and reduce trade barriers. COVID-19 is expected to have a prolonged impact on Africa as combined impact of trade disruptions, commodity price crashes, and economic restrictions. However, it also presents an opportunity for countries to recover stronger and capture more of international trade as supply chains are reimagined. In addition, the WLP program will increase regional trade through incentivized trade and investment and improved trade linkages. Africa would also benefit from increased integration into global trade routes and intense trade and investment linkages, helping domestic producers gain more efficient trade prospects and move up the value chain. Lastly, capability building and knowledge sharing can help reduce cost and increase efficiencies for African traders. The WLP, ladies and gentlemen, can act as a catalyzer to recapturing these opportunities. The IMF, in collaboration with the G20, have recently modeled out potential recovery path for developing economies. As you can see, in the downside scenario, GDP does not recover until 2025. Countries need, therefore, to aim for upside scenario by implementing pro-growth initiatives to spur recovery in their countries. The WLP is one of these initiatives, offering African countries the chance to reach to new markets, improve intra-Africa trade, and move up in global value chains. It is estimated that by 2025, the full implementation of WLP can result in an additional of $18 billion trade in Africa. It is important to take full continent view of this recovery initiatives, which is why the WLP will now begin engaging with CFTA to ensure this impact can be maximized across the trade area. The second major opportunity for African countries is integration into global trade routes and global value chains. Currently, African exporters are mainly exporting low-value inputs or primary goods. In addition, African traders don't have significant access to new fast-growing markets, particularly in Asia and Latin America. The WLP aims to fix this problem by working with public and private entities to reinvent trade routes. It's very critical. We are reinventing trade routes from Africa to the rest of the world and incentivize trade along a south-south corridor. This will give African traders greater access to new range of market, in addition to more efficient routes for required imports. The third major opportunity for African trade is increasing intra-regional trade and economic integration. Africa intra-regional trade is currently the lowest out of any continent worldwide. Improving trade facilitation between regional neighbors can help promote economic growth and development. The WLP has implemented a gateway program to increase trade connectivity and linkage between key regional countries. So you heard me saying hubs. Hubs are the major economic pillars, and linked to the hub are the gateways, are the neighboring countries to those identified hubs. This program will focus on enhancing increasing regional trade links through investment, trade incentivization, and reduction of trade barriers. Let's now look at the case study of the planned gateway program in Kenya to show how this works in practice. So here we can see the WLP program in practice as a catalyzer for Kenya's position as a regional trading hub. The program would improve trade links with landlocked countries through increased investment in feeder routes. Through the gateway program, as I said, again, gateway is the neighboring to the hub. So Kenya is the hub, and gateway could be a neighboring country, a landlocked country to Kenya. Through the gateway program, select countries surrounding Kenya, such as Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Tanzania, would also be incentivized to trade more. I'm sure they are trading now. We're saying trade more through Kenya, with their traders being offered a significant range of benefits. Connectivity in land and to international WLP routes would also enhance Kenya's position as a leading trade consolidation hub in East Africa. Of course, the WLP will also engage with ECA to gain support and coordination in maximizing economic impact for East Africa. The last major opportunity facing African trade is increasing the low level of trade facilitation and logistical capabilities. As you can see in the latest World Bank Logistics Performance Index, the LPI, as many of you know, the LPI, which is out of 5, Sub-Saharan Africa was the worst performing region. and significantly underperforming in contrast to global leaders such as UAE and Singapore. This trade facilitation performance translates directly into higher cost, more lengthy procedures, and more bureaucracy for African traders. The WLP program will offer a solution to this problem for African governments and trade entities. The WLP team works with entities in Africa to identify the major pain points in trade and logistics process and implement benefits to solve this problem. This will result in knowledge transfer and capability building for African trade entities, in addition to lower cost and increased efficiency for African traders. So I'm reaching my last slide. We have now seen the multiple benefits of the WLP and how it will help Africa improve its trade standing in the world. However, can we accelerate the rollout of the WLP program? The program rollout generally takes place over 6 steps. We are currently in step 2 and 3 across most of our target African hubs, looking to register partners and sign framework agreement. African governments can help accelerate the program development through signing framework agreement to support the rollout. African trade entities are also encouraged to register as partners with no cost to doing so. So ladies and gentlemen, Dubai, it's opening its arm to you with a bigger hope for a better future, and we want to extend your traders to the rest of the world. Let's work together. This is a network that is made to improve trade, to improve GDP of a country. And we hope that we get the key African countries part of this, and we roll out the benefits through our partners in those countries, and the traders at the end in Africa can benefit from this. Thank you very much, and I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Bastaki. We will now play a video on Invest in Dubai, an initiative by Dubai Exports.
With Invest in Dubai, you can launch your business in just a few minutes. As the first integrated digital platform for setting up a company in the city, Invest in Dubai eliminates the need for any in-person service center visits, helping you get all the necessary approvals from one single platform. Along with obtaining commercial licenses, there's a wealth of information available to investors. Use the Business Setup Simulator to learn more about applicable license types. Access the Dubai Business Map to identify the best location to set up your business across various industry sectors. Access the latest business news and start your business today. Join thousands of investors and entrepreneurs from different nationalities writing their success stories. Use Invest in Dubai, your gateway to the world capital of ambition.
الآن مع منصة استثمر في دبي لن تحتاج إلا دقائق معدودة لتأسيس أعمالك. استثمر في دبي، أول منصة رقمية شاملة لبدء أعمالك تمكنك من الحصول على جميع الموافقات اللازمة عبر منصة رقمية موحدة ودون الحاجة لزيارة مراكز الخدمة. إلى جانب إصدار التراخيص التجارية، تتيح منصة استثمر في دبي ثروة من المعلومات القيمة للمستثمرين. قم باستخدام نظام محاكاة الأعمال للتعرف على أنواع التراخيص المتوفرة. استكشف خارطة دبي للأعمال وابدأ بتأسيس أعمالك اليوم. انضم إلى آلاف المستثمرين ورجال الأعمال من مختلف الجنسيات واكتب قصة نجاحك. استخدم منصة استثمر في دبي، بوابتك إلى عاصمة الطموح العالمية.
We will now proceed to a panel discussion about the changing trends in supply chains and the logistics industry. May I present Dr. Mohan Guruswamy, Chief Knowledge Officer of the World Freezone Organization, as our moderator.
Thank you. Good morning. A very warm welcome to all the participants and my distinguished fellow panelists. We have a very interesting topic in front of us today, which is very timely, on changing trends in supply chain and logistics industry. Let me first introduce my fellow panelists who are domain experts in their respective fields. We have with us today Mr. Ahmad Sultan Al Haddad, Chief Operations Officer of Jebel Ali Freezone Authority. We have Mr. James Muru, President, Union of African Private Sector Organizations. We have Mr. Sanjeev Datta, Executive Director, Commodities and Financial Services of Dubai Multi-Commodity Center. And we have Mr. Guracha Adi, General Manager, Investor Services, Kenya Investment Authority. Let me, to begin with, in the next 3 to 4 minutes, give a little bit of background of the concept and set the tone, and then move on to the discussion mode. Primarily, when we talk about supply chain, it refers to 3 types of flows, 3 types of movement. Movement of goods, raw materials, and finished goods, which is logistics. Movement of information across the chain, and movement of funds, which is when a customer pays X amount of money, how much of it goes to each of the chain members. Now, out of the 3, the movement of information is key, because the flow of funds as well as material would depend a lot on the flow of information. We heard even in yesterday's speeches how important it is to have the right kind of connectivity. One of the trends seen is many industries, these players within the chain develop a system called inter-organizational information system. So the IT systems of the supplier, the manufacturer, the dealer, retailer gets connected. Even at one remote place, a unit of an item gets sold, it's get to be known smoothly, transparently across the entire chain. And this is now leading to a trend where the future of competition could be one chain versus another. You may be the best producer in the world, but if your chain members are weak, somebody else who is not as strong as you may get the competitive edge because his chain is stronger. A third phenomenon that we see is because of digitalization, the producers are trying to reach out to the end customers directly. So a lot of these intermediaries now will get knocked out, and they need to start looking for something better to do. What is called disintermediation process. And more recently, there is a phenomenon seen. More and more individual customers are buying items online, and therefore there are smaller parcels getting transported from the producer to the end user. In this context, the Universal Postal Union, an association of all the post offices in the world, have recently signed a contract with World Freezone Organization. They say the process of parcelization is increasing. How will this affect the bulk trade. Will this have an impact? Because historically, ships have been becoming bigger and bigger, trying to carry more containers with the logic that higher the volume, lower will be the unit cost, having economies of scale. But the new trend seems to be that many people order online and they start getting these parcels. So what the UPU is planning to do is establish post offices in every free zone, and then the producer directly gives it to the office, and then it reaches to the customer through the post office network. And the free zones also have a network which are connected through World Free Zone Organization. In fact, the pilot study will start with Barcelona, Morocco, and few others. So another major trend, as we could see, is parcelization. And of course, the environment and sustainability factor comes in. ESG investment, environment, social governance perspective to investment. So here, the focus seems to be a bit more on, apart from green operations and green construction, also on green transportation. With this as setting the tone on some of the trends that I wanted to share with all of you, let me straight away go on to the discussion mode. And let me start with JAVZA. Mr. Ahmad Sultan Al-Hada, as I mentioned, is the Chief Operations Officer. Mr. Al-Hada, you've been in the business for quite some time. In the last decade or so, what major changes have you noticed in the supply chain? And particularly, has the pandemic has raised a lot of challenges? And how did you handle that? And do you have any lessons to share with our audience? Mr. Haddad, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Good afternoon, everyone from Dubai. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers to put this together, Walid and his team. They've done a fantastic job yesterday and today. To be honest, Dr. Mohan, you have summarized a lot of the points of challenges that supply chain faces. But let me first start by really explaining what is JAVZA, and then I will let you know how we are in the middle of supply chain challenges and changes in the recent times. Today, if you look at JAVZA, the operation side of it, we are the trade arm of DP World, at least here in the region. We are a home of more than 8,000 companies, and when I say 8,000 companies, heavyweight companies that are operating here from Dubai, using Dubai as a base for their world trade. Today, the outreach of our Jebel Ali Free Zone is to more than 3.5 billion consumers. This is a fact that the numbers keep proving every year. We have more than 200,000 square meter of business environment that has been used by our customers, more than 2,000 factories and warehouses that are operating in Jebel Ali Free Zone. So supply chain is part of our daily job. So you can imagine the challenges and the changes that we have witnessed over the last few years. You know, to name few environmental changes that have affected the supply chain: floods, fire, recent floods in the recent years, and for example in Taiwan and India, supply chain, material supply chains have made the world as one open market, regardless of the barriers from different countries, different governments on world trade. But globalization, I think, is taking a lead to enable trade worldwide. But all of this have came to a complete stop last year with the pandemic. And today, if we look at what the pandemic have done and how manufacturers are seeking different markets, amazed. So today, no longer people are looking for a market with cheap labor or a market of raw material. They're looking into enabling their perspective, engaging with multiple suppliers, rather than one supplier on a contract. Have happened really in the last 1 year, and it's to happen. Africa and the Middle East, and especially Dubai, is really benefiting from this. We will see more manufacturing hubs coming to the. We will see suppliers and manufacturers nearer to their end market or consumer, getting rid of a lot of middlemen in the whole supply chain through technology, through transportation improvement that we put in place. And this is the philosophy of us here at our vision for years, from being a port company into a Freezone operator, into a logistic city operator in transportation and technology. This summarizes that we see a lot of potential benefits in improving the supply chain. We are really tapping in it, and we are trying to improve, and also we benefit. Thank you.
Very, very well said, Ahmad. That technology, particularly, and globalization and the environmental changes have had a huge impact. I remember years ago, I'm an ex-support Freezone customs person. I was head of G for. In the late 90s, we had about 800 to 900, and it is so such a pleasure to hear there are 8,000 companies, possibly more than 150 of them are 500, and therefore it's a very, very well said. It is a challenging time, and we are attempting now to overcome that. Thank you for that. Let me, and then I come back to you to go for the second round of questions. Let me go to Sir James Muru, who is President, Union of African Private Sector Organizations. Mr. Murika, the entire the percent of the global does a little less than 4 or 5% of the global trade, but it has a huge potential. It is generally considered as the next frontier to be conquered. A lot of Indians are flowing in there. Also, it will help, it needs to improve on its intra-continental trade, as we have been hearing since yesterday, and there is a huge potential scope with such a lot of abundant natural resources available. Do you think the supply chain logistics infrastructure, which I think currently meets the needs of growing demand, both in international as well as in intra-continental trade? What kind of challenges do you reckon could become hurdles, and how do you propose to overcome them? Mr. James, please.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, and thank you, my brother Walid, Dubai Consulting, for making this forum possible. By saying I'm wearing two hats. I'm wearing that hat of the President of the Union of African Private Sector Organizations, wearing the hat of Kenya Private Sector Alliance, which is a private sector body of the private sector, and that also harmonize trade within Kenya, where I chair the Economic Diplomacy Sector Board. So wearing those two, switching from one to the other. But let me also start by saying the objectives of, first of all, let me put the perspective of the country as a hub and the African continent, because to many people, you start looking at countries, and if you look at Africa, Nairobi sits right in the heart of the continent. It is 5 hours, and so any right-thinking investor that logistics sorted out. So we have a very robust airport, the networks across the entire continent, directions of the continent, as the destination of choice when you look at then I want to also say that for the longest time, Africa was referred to as the dark continent, and we were known for all the wrong things, not economical issues, but things that fall and hunger and all sorts of things. And we now from that face of the dark continent to a phase where we're saying Africa is rising. And that's the time this slumber and beginning to realize ourselves. And now the new reference of Africa is the new frontier. The only probably resource world that has not yet been exploited. And so as we look at this as a new frontier, we're looking at the opportunities that Africa offers to the rest of the world. If you look at Africa, you rightly put it, we are only 3% of the global to that stage. The advent of the African continent free trade agreement, which we are all pushing for, now it took effect from the 1st of January. But I dare say it's a good step in the right direction. Ready for this big responsibility. What in this new frontier, there are opportunities that present themselves naturally. When you look at the infrastructure development continent, there's a big opportunity for players in that space to come and help develop. So have what we call the small segmented countries that are not commercially viable. And the only way to network these countries through infrastructure, through technology, to be able to leverage on the potential that the African continent has. If you also look at the position that China has played more than what we have in Africa. They are 1.6 billion or 1.3 billion in terms of numbers. But if you look at what we have not done, and anybody who thinks seriously about and direct their eyes in that way. So we see that we see technology as another big area that offers itself because again, bringing these small commercially unviable countries globalizing through technology, we can then build commercial quantities across the whole continent, and we have a large enough market to consume part of the continent and be able to sell. China beats the whole because of sheer numbers, Dr. Mohan. They have enough people to consume what they produce, competitive edge. Look at it. So for me, I think those are the, then we are also driving from the Union of African sector, we are driving more intra-Africa cooperation and networking so that we are able to appreciate what is happening in Congo, what's happening in South Africa, what's happening in Nigeria, and we're able to share this information. And you did rightly say that information is critical here. Sharing of information is a resource that across the whole continent. And so, as I conclude, I think we have lion, as it wakes up, it'll be turning around a lot of things. And those will not be on board. For me, from the UAE, where we have worked very closely, we have very saddening figures about the trade between and UAE in terms of inflows and outflows, which I may share. But I think we need to also look at this mutual benefit between the two countries as to develop past relationship. Thank you, Dr. Mohan.
Well said again, Mr. Muru. It is indeed the next frontier. 4 years ago, I remember visiting Kenya to speak at United Nations conference, and I have some very pleasant memories and good friends there. Particularly the entire continent, 50 plus countries, diversified in its own ways. So you need to, as you rightly said, network, support each other, and the ones which are a little more advanced in terms of technology infrastructure should, do some hand-holding for the rest, cooperative manner, grow and contribute. And yes, investments doing, it is a sleeping giant which is up our. And in fact, at World Freezone, our research, doubling is a slightly exaggerated number, but what are the numbers now? They are going to substantially increase. And this is what our research shows. Thank you so much for that. I'll come back to you for the second round of questions on the future. I guess one of the largest free zones consistently getting awarded as a growing organization continuously. How do you feel the pandemic has affected? What kind of challenges do you face, and what kind of actions have you taken to overcome? Some actions might have worked, some may not work. Would you like to share with us some of your knowledge and experience in this area? Mr. Datta, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see everyone. Ahmed, my dear friend, is here. And yes, the pandemic has certainly impacted not only DMCC, but the entire world. But, typically and historically, DMCC has always outperformed whenever it's been a challenging scenario, whether it's the pandemic of last year and this year, or whether it's the financial crisis. Now, at the outset, our annual report is a public document. So that's been published a couple of days ago. And that talks about some of the things that I'm going to be talking about as well. Now, there's no doubt that the COVID-19 has posed challenges across the board. I mean, it had an impact not only on work, but on life. And also it has accelerated the pace of transformation, because earlier, I'm not sure how many of us had even paid attention to face masks in a supermarket or Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So last March, for example, when COVID-19 became real, in a matter of days, we had to adapt to remote working, which in our case worked well because, we had the right infrastructure in place, having invested in digital solutions for some time, it wasn't very sporadic. So obviously digitization and innovation are two of the key pillars of our strategy at DMCC. Now, whether it's providing, services digitally, such as our business setup, or conducting, meetings using platforms such as these, we were able to operate more efficient of a day with 7 to 8 meetings at an average for someone like myself, having to shuttle between places. Here you are just clicking on and clicking off, and now you're not even tired in the efforts associated with the inter-meeting kind of travel and stuff. Now, despite the overall business environment shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic, DMCC registered a record-breaking 2,025 new companies in 2020. That's been the highest number of registrations in the last 5 years. And obviously, these numbers are testament that we have managed to navigate the challenging climate very successfully, and that the confidence remains very robust. At the end of the day, we are made for trade. We like to connect demand and supply. The Abraham Accord has also, been good news for the region, not only the region, but also the connectivity in terms of, the African continent as well. And in any case, Dubai, and more specifically, DMCC is very critical, to businesses in India and Africa in terms of connectivity, and using Dubai as a gateway, either to the east or to the west as respective. So while last year was a record year, there's nothing stopping us from breaking this record again in 2021. Now, what are the challenges that we faced? So the challenges that we faced were obviously our members needed the support, So we had to support our member companies navigate the impact of the pandemic. So that had far-reaching impact on their businesses. We had to protect the health and well-being of our community, member companies, employees, and all stakeholders, because mental health had become a key issue at the time. And also adapting to remote working and ensuring all operations, continued seamlessly. So a crisis management team was always in action. And since we also have, physical platforms such as the tea and the coffee center, a single positive case or positive patient, many had to recognize that we are in a dynamic and fluid situation that is rapidly changing. So change had to be the only constant. And as such, we had to assess the circumstances and market conditions as well, as they evolved for us to be able to make, sound decisions. Now, on the supply chain and logistics front, of course, they come hand in hand with trade, Lockdowns and safety measures impacted almost all stages of the supply chain, mainly production and trade routes. Again, our physical platforms, the diamond industry, the precious metals industry. Now, lockdowns in key producing markets such as, Kenya, India, Sri Lanka, more for tea, clearly impacted the output and the export. And this also resulted, in issues in packing materials. For example, the main challenge was to ensure a seamless supply. So what is the initiatives that we took? So these are the typical challenges, trade not being at its best, roads being closed. For example, a typical day, we travel from home to work and vice versa, and our route is closed. So what do? You look for something alternate, right? You either work from home, or you try and tweak it. So the initiatives we took, it's very important to note that, the countless opportunities do come with the challenges that we talked about. So one of the things that the DMCC Freezone did was, rolled out its business support package. This saw interest from companies in almost 150 countries. So more than 8,000 member companies availed over 13,000 offers and incentives that we granted in 2020. And that was all very quick and rolled out in phases. Significant enhancements to our customer service, which is also accompanied by a fully digitized setup process and easier onboarding. So we've seen more than a 50% drop in walk-in, obviously social distancing becoming very important. And so the physical visits and walk-ins have, sort of reduced. And 95% of our new companies in the free zone start their journey with DMCC digitally. So that's always been at the forefront of our efforts. Now, on the supply chain advantage is that we are a stocking destination for several companies and traders. Now, by that, I mean, companies use Dubai as a layover, stocking their goods before sending them on to buyers. So this is a transit point, really. Thus, there's always inventory here. And usually when someone needs a commodity, we have it. A classic example was proven in the case of tea and coffee, where we emerged clearly as a very neutral authority for ensuring, supply of tea and coffee, which was categorized as, essential supplies during the time and at the right prices. Now, for example, I talked about tea and coffee. Both the centers, despite the lockdown, have outperformed. So Coffee Center handled over 7 million kilos of green beans, and the tea centers handle over 40 million kilos of tea. So obviously, this speaks volumes of the reliability and the emergence. So that's an initiative, and that's an infrastructure we had built, which came to the forefront. Now, the supply chain integration is also important. If South Africa, Angola, and other African countries send us their greener beans to have them processed, roasted, blended, packed, and redistributed, it'll cost a whole lot less than doing it inland, for example. The closer to consumption that you roast, the quality of the product is better. Sustainability. DMCC, again, is at the forefront in terms of, sustainability measures. And we're perhaps one of the few authorities to have published our GRI report for 3 years. So all of this, considering the commodities that we handle, precious metal stones, whether it's from the mines to the retailer, or whether it's from the farm to the plate in terms of tea and coffee, we are seen as a reliable ecosystem which changes with times, and I think it's been proven during the pandemic, and of course, the report that I talked about. We're also part of the World Logistics Passport, which Mahmoud has just spoken about. And so for us, it's not about only exploring or trying to better existing trade routes, but trying to create new trade routes. So, at the end of the day, people receive their stuff at the right price. the aggregator platform, which we launched in August. So no slowing down during the pandemic. It's another forwards platform which gives farmers a chance to rest assured that they're going to get back the money they've invested and channelize their efforts on what they do best in terms of growing the crop. So yeah, all of this in summary has enabled us strengthen relations with other trade hubs and forge new partnerships. Thank you.
Very interesting. Digitization and innovation seem to be the two-point program contributing to the success, and it makes a lot of sense. Particularly what I liked in what you said, that pandemic need not necessarily be only a challenge. You can look at opportunities there. It's not only a disruptor, but it can be an accelerator in some areas. Recently I did a training program for 30 CEOs across Africa and Middle East, sponsored by Islamic Development Bank. And one of the concepts it was called Leadership in Adversity. It was a program with 6 modules, and I requested CEOs to submit an assignment on the challenges, and many of them have given success stories. There is a company which was making diapers, quickly shifted to face masks and made millions of dollars. So in every adversity, in every challenge, there is also an opportunity. Well said. I'll come back to you. Let me go to Mr. Guracha Adi, General Manager, Investor Services, Kenya Investment Authority. Mr. Guracha, the mission or the mandate of any investment authority is to promote and facilitate investments into the country. What kind of actions, innovations do you think you have taken in the organization to overcome the current challenges? What worked? Please share with us, Mr. Guracha.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan, and good morning to fellow panelists. And I want to, from the onset, to thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to participate in this forum. Kenya Investment Authority is a government agency whose mandate is to promote and facilitate investment in Kenya by both local and foreign investors. To do this, we have, on the facilitation front, we have operate a one-stop center where various government agencies are located within KenInvest to provide a streamlined and coordinated services so that investors will have an easy setting up and even post-establishment services, what we refer to as aftercare. Now, with the pandemic, when all of us were to work from home and, meeting delegations physically or leading, delegations outside Kenya became, I think, difficult. So we had to resort to reaching to our investors digitally. So we strengthen our customer relationship management systems where investors can access our services from wherever they are in the world, around the world. Particularly our customer management system, where we have a ticketing system wherever investor raises questions or query based on specific sector, then it will go to a specific officer who is a specialist or an expert in that area. So that has made us, to reach our investors and keep them abreast of developments and answer their queries on, even emerging opportunities, even during the pandemic. We also have an e-opportunity, a resource we have on our website, which provides profile projects, opportunities that have been, profiled for investors, uptake, and investors can access this from anywhere also around the world. We also had an e-regulation where we have mapped a number of processes that investors will have to go through in investing in various sectors. And this is also around the world and can be accessed. Also, investors will be able to see what is there and then how can I invest? What are the steps? And finally, to reach potential investors, we've also resorted to, what we are doing as we speak now, the virtual, seminars, conferences. We've participated in very many of them, making presentations and, showcasing opportunities that Kenya has to offer. So those are some of the things as Kenya Invest we invested in, and it has actually been keeping us busy even over those this pandemic period. Thank you very much.
Very, very well done, Mr. Guracha. I agree with you. CRM is very important. You need to ensure identifying what are their needs, and you try to effectively use technology, digital platform to ensure that you proactively provide support to them, not wait for them to ask. You go find out what they want and do back. We are almost close to less than 10 minutes left with us. I want to request each of you, you've made some excellent points. It's been brilliant so far. Probably in 2 to 2.5 minutes, if you could sum up and share with us the way forward. Let me go back to Ahmad Al-Haddad and say, we've talked about challenges, we talked about where we are. Where do you foresee logistics supply chain going from here? And what are your sort of winding up comments, please?
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. To be honest, the future is going toward technology and the digitalization of supply chain. When I say digitalization of supply chain, is not a portal or a computer system or an application. The digitalization is moving your processes, moving your operation to be more controlled by technology rather than people. If you look here, Dr. Mohan, you're fully aware of Jebel Ali Freezone. We have two similar factories in Jebel Ali. One is 30 years old and one is only 2 years old. The newer one is much bigger than the old one. The old one requires 200 people, 300 people to operate. The new one requires 6 people to operate. So with technology, you can really reach to new destinations. You can minimize your cost. You can improve your supply chain, and this is what we are doing here in DP World. If you look at us, we are heavily investing in technology here in JAVZA level. At the group level, we are heavily investing in technologies such as Hyperloop. We are investing in new platforms like the World Trade Passport. All of this that we are doing today is to really enable and help overcome such challenges. The High Bay, for example, project here at Jebel Ali is a one-of-a-kind project, and I'm telling you, it's a game changer. Today, we are using only 30% of a container terminal space to do and achieve similar numbers of a fully operating container terminal. This is a changing technology. It's a game changer. This will disturb how we approach container terminal operation. Warehouses, flexible warehouses, storage solutions that we offer digitally to our customer to enable them to operate through an online platform. All of this will help really minimize the risk and achieve a higher result. Thank you, Doctor.
Excellent, excellent. So very well said. I do give a lot of lectures. I'm going to use your example. 2 factories, 30-year-old having 250 people, a new one, 2 years old, having only 6 people, doing with same efficiency. Amazing. So going forward, technology is going to play. We need to, in fact, at World Freezone, we have a number of certifications, and one of them is called Smart Zone or Tech Ready Zone, where we identify at what level a zone is and do some hand-holding, providing inputs to make them tech ready. We have Green Zone, we have Safe Zone certification, Innovative Zone, and so on. So technology, absolutely agreed. I think it's not only AI and big data, but also you look at 3D printers, you look at drone technology. All these driverless cars could have a huge impact on logistics movement in future. Very well said, sincerely appreciated. Coming to Mr. James Muru, your next closing remarks on the way forward, please. You need to unmute yourself, Mr. James.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I think Ahmed has really summarized a lot of what would have all said, because in my summation, I think what I see as specific opportunities are innovations and inventions, supporting innovations and inventions, create more partnerships between the two countries and the GCC generally, and also supporting each other during this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic time, because those companies that will withstand this COVID-19 are the ones that will be the companies of the future. Some companies have been swallowed by this pandemic. So those of us who survive through this period will have the biggest story to tell. Obviously, we're also looking at networking and improved technology. Communication through sea, through air, and through technology between the two countries and the region and the world at large. We're looking at also opportunities in the financial services, because again, out of the items that you mentioned, information, there is also resources. Without resources, obviously, businesses cannot flourish. So if we can again remove these barriers of capital flow and also the people's flow, because sometimes barriers, recently Kenya had a ban to enter Dubai for reasons that are known to all of us, but that did affect the trade. So maybe we look at it holistically and say only when it's really a must we put barriers such as those. So we remove all the physical barriers as far as possible, and tariff barriers and NTBs that also can hamper trade. From Africa, where we sit, we see big opportunities, and I like what Ahmed again talked about tea and coffee. Why should the GCC and Dubai take tea from that is not the quality that we offer? Kenya offers the best tea and the best coffee, the best flowers, and I know the Dubai people are romantic, so they should use more flowers to make sure they spice up their lives. And so my parting shot is that we should look at support each other's brand, so that what is coming out of Dubai and the GCC countries generally is supported by Kenya to the continent and vice versa. And the last thing I want to say is Kenya will be showcasing in the Expo 2020. And those of you who are looking for strong partnerships, that is where I would appeal that we all meet. Let's plan, let's look at partnerships that can be established there. We should not be probably having our flower center in Netherlands, which is 8 hours away or 9 hours away, when we have 4.5 hours to buy. Can we consider a flower center in Dubai? These are opportunities that can us to link and build each other for mutual benefit. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohan.
Excellent. Again, very, very good points. I fully appreciate the point that apart from innovation, partnership, cooperation and mutual support are the way forward. We need to collectively as a world cooperate with each other rather than getting onto competition mode. When we cooperate, there is a synergy. 2 + 2 becomes more than 4. And that results in win-win situation for everybody. Going forward, this is an excellent advice you have given Mr. James Muru. Sanjeev Datta, few minutes, quick, please, winding up.
Well, I've already spoken about much of it, and thanks to Ahmed and James, who also summed it up pretty well. So for me, it's better production planning, production management setup, where you talked about automation, but how much and what degree of automation you need, because specialization also carries a blend between automation and mechanization. Better inventory management, importance of digitization we talked about, so that can help, manage the supply chain risks as it becomes very self-reliant. Then, of course, diversifying trade routes. So over-reliance on a particular country or geography or a supply chain sprawl, and of course, the complexity of operating across multiple jurisdictions needs to be considered, but, you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. Of course, the importance of recalibration of global supply chains, for greater resilience, in an environment of risk, because, people are smarter. We talked about World Logistics Passport, which we believe will be a new game changer, which we're all happy to be sort of contributing to. Again, supply chain transparency is key, help address problems, more effectively, help our partners and customers with more visibility, like we've talked about. We talked about technology. I talked about, the Agriota platform, because ultimately, we continuously strive to create value and drive trade via Dubai, because we are a center port and a global center port for trade. So it's all about enabling businesses, to trade efficiently and with confidence, not cannibalizing. So at the end, yes, Dubai stands for what we stand for. We're made for trade, made for sustainable and fair trade. Thank you.
Very, very well said. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try and diversify geographically, product-wise. You're always de-risking your very important element. Last one.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sijambo, my brothers and sisters, are we on? Nafli, we are on.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
مرحبا Muhammad. Good afternoon, Dr. Henry.
Good afternoon.
Let's see, to follow that interesting panel, it's a challenge, my brothers. So we need to come up with a very heart-to-heart discussion. So I think both of you guys you come from the stakeholders. Both of you have a responsibility, and I have interacted with both of you. You guys are going out of your way to support the micro and SME in both Dubai and Kenya. Therefore, I want to talk and give people, for your information, I think we are about 200 to 250 attendees to match yesterday 1,220. We are almost 1,000 attendees today. So we need to work harder a little bit to reach yesterday numbers, but I'm sure we have half a day that we can reach that number. But back to the subject, I think we want to talk about how can we help create the linkage. Everybody know what MSME does in Kenya. Everybody know what Dubai SME does in Dubai. But our main element is how can we link Kenya and Dubai? How can we produce opportunities? I remember once, a few years ago, I received a call from our ambassador while I was in Kenya, and he asked me to attend the meeting with the wife of the president of Kenya. I was not sure why it was me, but I was very thrilled when she, very important strategic partner on the development of youth empowerment in our country. And we seek partnership with UAE in coming up with solutions that will make that process easier. Let me start with Dr. Henry. Kenya has a wealth of product and has a wealth of talent. And we are also, on the other hand, we are a market that brings products and services. And actually, we are your second partner for Kenya in as a partner after China. How do you see some of the solutions that you think we can work on together with Brother Saeed Al-Marri on bringing opportunity to both SMEs in the country? Just if you can share with us some of these thoughts.
Thank you very much, Walid, and greetings to all the panelists and our listeners. That is a very important question, and it is even more important because of where we are now, both as a country, as a continent, and as a world, post-COVID. There are various approaches that the two countries can use to ensure that we create strong and sustainable linkages and get practical solutions to the challenges that the micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs are facing across the country. I want first to appreciate, Walid, that the linkages existing between Kenya and Dubai are already strong. And also to highlight that it is very important for us to appreciate that technology will be extremely important in whichever direction we take in creating these linkages. Kenya as a country is largely youth populated. Kenya as a country has 78% of her population represented by the youth. And the government is deliberately pushing to mainstream the youth in business, in production value chains, in agriculture, and as a strategy towards improving Kenya's balance of payments and balance of trade. We must then ask ourselves, what is the place of technology and innovation in pushing the partnerships that would create a sustainable model for interaction between the two countries? I think my first point would be that given that Kenya is strongly grounded in agriculture, in her push for growing the export market, we need to ask ourselves what investments, what collaborations can be created in the agribusiness value chains between the two countries. The second question we need to ask ourselves is, what is the main problem that is hindering especially the Kenyan business person from penetrating your market and from sustainably producing with a market orientation? And that brings me to the issue again of technology and production capacity. The third question that I would want to pose will be, are we able, in appreciation of the fact that our MSCs have weak aggregation structures? So we have so many players in the micro, small, and medium enterprises in Kenya and in the region, but the production volumes per enterprise are relatively low, in a way that probably satisfying the market volume and probably quality demands would be a challenge. So we need then to invest in aggregation of MSME output in the country with export orientation. Kenya and even Dubai, there is a huge potential in technology and innovation. There's a huge opportunity in coming up with business incubation centers to support startups. There's a huge capacity in terms of human resource to use innovation centers, incubation centers for startups as the foundation for achieving what Walid, you asked today. In my answers then, I would say, one, we must answer the question of production capacity through investing in sustainable models for business incubation to support startups who have great innovation potential to produce, to innovate and satisfy the market. As a country in Kenya, we need to invest a lot in MSME product aggregation and use that infrastructure to ensure that all the effort that you put in place as partners, as stakeholders, bear fruit in a cost-effective manner. And thirdly, we need to invest more in bringing the youth to enterprise, in production, in value addition, especially in agriculture. And I think that will be very important to Walid, if I might stop there.
Thank you very much. Yes. Abu Muhammad, Mr. Saeed Al-Marri, تسمعني أبو محمد؟
معاك وياك وليد.
Basically, see, we have opportunities in Kenya, but also in the same time, كاميراتكم بطلة ولا برد؟
خلاص.
إيه مرحبا. You know, you have a lot of areas that today might be in need within Kenyan market. Also, we need to diversify the SME community in the sense they need to look at other opportunities outside the country. Okay, and I don't know if I'm considered one of them, but I took the advantage in going to Kenya. And I was, in the beginning, you hear of the stereotype, difficult problem. You face the similar problems in UAE. But actually, I can convince that the return on investment that I found in Kenya is even higher than in Dubai for SME. What can we do to bring, and hopeful that we can follow it up with a meeting between you and Dr. Henry, but what can we do to be more, to think outside the box and see what is the opportunity for our members?
Well, thank you, Mr. Walid, for the introduction. Thanks to all the panelists. Well, I think maybe Dr. Henry has raised it already. Maybe there is a concern, of course, when it comes to small and medium enterprises or micro and small medium enterprises. Well, actually, it's a global challenge, I consider it. Okay, but when we measure the size, okay, of Dubai as an emirate within the United Arab Emirates, okay, and the actually the number of SMEs whom are operating within the ecosystem, you get to see that there is always an opportunity, okay, for growth, for matchmaking, okay, and for opening new markets. If we see Dubai's economy in particular, and how many SMEs are operating, we see close to 99%, okay, according to the definition of SME, okay, 99% of companies operating in Dubai are considered SMEs, okay, or MSMEs. So I believe, and with their contribution to the GDP, which counts up to from 55% to 60%, and the amount, or let's say the number of employees working within those entities, they are around, I think they are close to 47% of the entire employment. So always, I would say always, there is an opportunity, okay, but raising actually the, let's say, raising the awareness, okay, raising the capabilities of those SMEs who are operating in the market, of course, our market, and Kenya's market, and globally. So this is, I won't call it a challenge, but this is an opportunity for us, okay, to see and explore where we can come up with, let's say, mutual agreements with the products that can be exchanged with the services, And of course, maybe everyone has mentioned it with the digitizing of all services and the supply chain. I think it's easy, and Dubai has the ready infrastructure. Okay, especially, and we tested it actually during the pandemic, and it tested, of course, positive, not positive COVID, but positive from an opportunity and the readiness of those SMEs and Dubai economy as an entire economy.
With technology, I remember, gentlemen, I used to go to Russia for one meeting. And a lot of times, it's not the right meeting. People mood, you spend all this money. Now, with technology, I think we have an advantage with, alhamdulillah, despite the epidemic, we're still communicating, we're still working. Can we come up with an opportunity, Doctor and Saeed, and we connect our SMEs? Because I'll tell you something. Till now, I have invested in 4 SMEs in Kenya that I can bet anybody, technology-wise, even we don't have it in Dubai. And the size of the investment, of course, I will share it with you later on, but it's very little, and we're able to generate very advanced technology. I mean, don't go very far. One of the speakers today, Alfonso, I had a meeting with him recently. The level of technology, why? The cost of labor, Muhammad, is very cheap. The technology, Kenya is actually 25 years brought mobile payment to the world, where the whole world didn't even know. So technology is there, human resources is there, but how can we develop this? I recommend that if we can come up with more of a B2B meetings to offer it as one element for our clients, which is Dubai SMEs, to offer it to the members so they can access these markets, because everybody in the beginning, they are afraid from venturing outside. So I wanted to start with you, Saeed, then I will go to Dr. Henry.
Well, if you allow me, Mr. Walid, just to mention it again, it's a matter of raising the awareness and the capability and bringing, let's say, those opportunities on one plate or one platform, where actually what you have mentioned previously, like B2B meetings. And I think now, again, with the technology, I think it's very easy to do this matchmaking exercise. So this is one element, and I believe that the matchmaking and meeting is like the first step. Okay, later on, let's say entrepreneurs. Okay, they should understand this. Let's say this new opportunity that they are looking forward to engage into. So this is again is a capability development. Okay, where just you test the capability of that specific entrepreneur to expand abroad. Okay, to find the new opportunities. You got me excited, Walid, where you told me about the, mashallah, the digital payment. Okay, maybe the amount of investment that you have done with the Kenyan startups or companies. So again, if you have done this, okay, yourself today, okay, and I think we have a good resources, and we have the talent, okay, whom are just ready, but they need this push, and they need someone to guide them. Okay, you have the route, Walid, right now, okay, where you can guide such people and startups and entrepreneurs, and we are always on, and we are very much looking into this collaboration.
Muhammad, I So Dr. Henry, I will interrupt you a little bit, but very good example. You know, when I go to Kenya, I go to the market and I buy fruits and vegetables. Then I went one step further where I started buying some product on a wholesale. Today, 30 pieces of avocado which is very top, comes to Dubai for $100. This is what you buy it here from our, union co-ops, or actually it costs $10 all the way from Kenya. That's $90 that SME can reinvent their business, can create more bigger opportunities. This is just one simple example of the many opportunities that exist in Kenya and Africa in particular. Dr. Henry, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And I really like the discussion. Now, and I love the idea of B2B meetings that you mentioned, is to convert Kenya and Dubai into one integrated market, so that the demand and supply dynamics then can be well integrated for us to know what is required in both markets. And the example you have just given is very important, because if, for example, we would identify, even on a pilot basis, priority value chains to invest in, priority products to test this and propel to the market on both sides, then that will make it very easy for us to address the challenges, including the capacity challenges that my colleague has mentioned, that would require us to sensitize the MSMEs, to capacity build the MSMEs. And sometimes capacity building might sound a very complex thing, but it is just letting a farmer know that you have a huge untapped market from the person sitting next to you, the person connected virtually with you. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that, for example, the Kenyan government now, through the ministry where I am, is coming up with the micro, small, and medium enterprises portal that will be propelling the products that are produced by this sector. Now I'm imagining then, if we could integrate our efforts, link the business community from the two countries, then we are able to really tap into opportunities you mentioned. I am also imagining that, borrowing from an example that I know we might have discussed with you 2 weeks ago, we have farmers producing products, for example. But as we produce here, we may not even be appreciating the value that we are carrying. The opportunity then will be for joint investment in those select value chains that have huge potential for changing the mindsets of our micro and small entrepreneurs, so that we don't underrate what, Walid, you've really expounded on, the potential that the Kenyan micro entrepreneur, small entrepreneur, medium entrepreneur has, the potential that an MSME in Dubai has. Come together, create virtual and physical B2B forums, integrate the Kenyan and the Dubai market, and propel priority value chains to test the potential that this market has. It will become very easy then, and I loved the previous presentations that we had before this session, for example, to see the opportunities that the Kenyan MSMEs can be subcontracted to produce for your market. We will be allowed to see the opportunity that probably the capacity building opportunities that your manufacturers on the other side can exchange with our people, so that we can be able to satisfy the expectations of your market. Thank you.
I think if you followed yesterday launching, I think Richard, His Excellency Richard Ngatia, and ourselves, we built a partnership in creating in Kenya UAE Trade Center, And now in UAE, we have Kenya Export Promotion Center, which is led by Kenya Chamber of Commerce, Kiproba, and also hopefully micro and SME organizations. So this can be built around that. So we can have, in the same time also, we aim the partnership from Dubai SME to help companies from Dubai and UAE to penetrate to such a market. Gentlemen, I think time, our guys are sending me a message that we are above the time. I appreciate your support. You guys are the support and between the country and the SME community. Thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you for your continued support. And we look forward to further discussions in the future on how to bring both of our SME together. Now, I think I will hand the mic to Nefli to introduce the exciting speakers from SME community. And we look forward also to listening to my friend and great partner, Rebecca. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
And I would like that you can stay with us in case of any question that can be raised to the regulator and the organizations such MSME and the Dubai SME. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walid. Thank you all. We are now moving into the second panel session of the day, Big Trade for Small Businesses, Opportunities for SMEs in Africa and the UAE. This panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Rebecca Harrison, co-founder and CEO of the African Management Institute. Ms. Rebecca, if you may, please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Rebecca. How are you?
Good afternoon, Walid. I'm very well. How are you?
Great, sister. Thank you very much. I think the microphone is yours. Go ahead, sister.
Great. So are we all on the line and ready to go? Yeah?
Just move on. Take it on.
Wonderful. Well, it's absolutely wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, Walid, and greetings to everybody on the line, in the room with us and listening in. My name is Rebecca Harrison. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of the African Management Institute. We are based in Kenya, in Nairobi, in Kenya, and we're a Pan-African organization that enables ambitious businesses across Africa to thrive. We do that through practical tools and training. I'll perhaps have a chance to tell you a little bit more about AMI later in the session. But I'm delighted today to be chairing this panel on big trade for small businesses. So opportunities for SMEs, for small and medium-sized enterprises in Africa and the UAE. So as we know, it's been a particularly tough year for SMEs across the world, and particularly here in Africa and in the Middle East, where lockdowns and restrictions related to COVID-19 have complicated businesses and made it particularly challenging for entrepreneurs to reach their markets. So we at AMI, we always try and take an opportunity-based view of the world. So we like to think about, well, whenever there's a challenge, we also like to see opportunity. And we believe firmly that there are opportunities, that COVID-19 has brought about opportunities for SMEs, and that may involve, in fact, opportunities for trade and export that SMEs might not have considered before. So today we're going to think about and talk about opportunities for SMEs to do cross-border trade, to find new markets and customers. We're going to hear from some experts in the sector on both sides of this conversation. So without any delay, I'm going to jump right in and introduce our really exciting panel of speakers. What I'm going to do is introduce very briefly each panelist, really giving just their name and their organization, and then I'm going to ask each of them to tell us a little bit more, just briefly, about what their organization does and what particular perspective they bring to this conversation about SMEs trading between Africa and the UAE. So some of them bring kind of trade expertise, some of them are entrepreneurs themselves, and some of them work in larger businesses providing services to SMEs. So I'll introduce each of them. We'll dive into some questions. And Walid, I hope that you'll give me a little bit of guidance on time and nudge me at the point where we want to open up to questions from the audience.
It's okay. It's okay.
And of course, Walid also.
We have to finish by 2:40. Dubai time, which is 1:40.
Dubai time, 1:40 Kenyan time. So we have a whole hour and 20 minutes together. I think we can get to some really engaging conversation in that time. Wonderful. So let me jump right in. First of all, I'm going to kick off with Mr. Issam Mahmoud, who is the Senior Vice President of Etisalat. Issam, would you tell us a little bit about yourself and, as I say, your perspective on this conversation around big trade for small business?
Yes, thank you first of all. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Walid, for inviting me to be part of this panel discussion and also to be part of this event. I really appreciate all the efforts done by the SME Talks and supporting the businesses in UAE and especially in the Africa. Just to start with myself, my name is Issam Mahmoud. I'm the Senior Vice President of Small and Medium Businesses here in Etisalat. As you know, Etisalat is the telecom provider of the services of ICT and the core services in UAE and also in 18 different countries. And Etisalat, we truly believe that the SMEs business is an important segment for us. It's an important segment for the country because for the UAE, it contributes to almost 60% of the total GDP and also employs more than 90% of the workforce, which is available here in these countries. As Etisalat, we are always committed to provide the startups and the SMEs with the tailored advanced solutions to increase their profitability and also increase their productivities. We are always and frequently working very, very, very closely with the SMB sectors to empower them with the solution that help them transform them and bring them to the digital innovations into the businesses. We also take a great pride to partner with SMBs on empowering them with a tailor-made solution to help them grow their businesses. We have also, as indicated before, we recently launched a platform, or I would say a program, which we call them Hello Business. It's mainly focusing on the startups of how we as Etisalat can support the startup and the SMEs to start doing the business in this country, to start doing the business in UAE. And that's one single shop or one-stop shops under one roof, which can cater all the needs and all the requirements of the startup, from the government registrations, from opening an accounts, insurance, or whether it's opening a taxation accounts, having a services, whether it's office services as real estates or telecom services or even the furniture. It's all available under one roof. And the whole idea behind it is how we can ease the process of any startup, of any businesses to run and start the businesses within the short period of time. This is a brief in addition to all the services which we also can provide and can also fulfill the need and the requirements of the SMBs, whether it's from onboarding them to the digitals, helping them to be online presence. So this is a brief about us and how we are able to help and support the SMEs.
Great, thank you so much, Issam. I hope that there are lots of SMEs listening to this panel and that they'll potentially be able to benefit from some of those services that you offer. We'll look forward to hearing a little bit more about that later in the session. Great, so let's move now to Ms. Ebtasem Al-Kabi, who is Head of Sales at the Jebel Ali Freezone. Ebtasem, would you tell us a little bit about you, about Jebel Ali Freezone, and also what perspective you bring to this conversation?
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. My name is Ebtasem Al-Kabi. I'm heading the sales department in DP World and Jebel Ali Freezone. As I am very proud to be part of DP World, we also have a heritage that we are very proud of. Growing from a local port operator in 1972 in Port Rashid, now we have around 50,000 people working with us from 150 operations, with 150 operations around the globe. We operate globally to serve our customers and our clients wherever they are by handling almost 10% of the global trade and container movements at the moment. Our operation, of course, includes ports and terminals, industrial park, logistics, economic zones, marine services, and marinas. Our business has changed so much from the early days, from operating small ports and terminals to where we are today as an integral part of the supply chain of everyone basically around the globe. We tackle we come up with solutions and tackle the challenges of the businesses to manage their cost. We aim, of course, to be essential to building the bright future of the trade, the global trade, and SMEs, of course, ensuring everything we do leaves a long-lasting positive impact in the economy and on the companies and businesses. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ebtasem. We look forward to hearing a little bit more about your work and how that can benefit SMEs later in the conversation. So let's move now to Alan Ngugi. Alan, welcome. You're the Director of Business Competitiveness at Trademark East Africa. Tell us a little bit about you and Trademark East Africa. What do you bring to this conversation?
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thanks to the other panel members. It's an exciting moment to be here to talk about the work that Trademark East Africa does. So by way of introduction, my name is Alan Ngugi. I'm the Director for Private Sector Advocacy at Trademark East Africa. And this work really focuses on the issues that private sector have when it comes to policies and regulations that affect how they operate either at a national level or at a regional level. And we do support them to undertake research that then they are able to engage with policymakers to create favorable environment for them. Now, Trademark East Africa has grown to become one of the largest aid for trade organizations in the world. And we are funded by a number of donors from across the world seeking to catalyze trade between East African countries and also with the rest of the world. So at Trademark East Africa, we have two components, which I would like to call as the demand side and the supply side. And talking about the supply side, this really refers to the work that we do around making markets accessible. So this work revolves around trying to open up markets through physical infrastructure. So we've done a lot of work to try and open up the ports of Mombasa and ports of Dar es Salaam through putting in place physical infrastructure, looking at some of the equipment that is needed at both ports to improve efficiency. And we've done this in consultation and in partnership with the government agencies. We've also been able to build one-stop border posts across the East African countries. So between Kenya and Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania, Uganda and Rwanda, Burundi and Rwanda, Tanzania and Rwanda, and Tanzania and Burundi. And even in as far countries as, the border between DRC. We have expanded our operations to Somaliland, and we've been in discussion with the government in Somaliland to do some work in Somaliland. There's a rehabilitation of the Berbera corridor that we are supporting through funding from the British government. We've also expanded our footprint into Ethiopia and Djibouti for obvious reasons. Ethiopia is landlocked, and there's a lot of efficiency gains that can be done from improving port operations in Djibouti. We've also expanded, we're expanding down south into countries like Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique. And this is because of the demand for the service that Trademark brings on the table in terms of making markets accessible, either through putting in place physical infrastructure or working with government agencies such as the revenue authorities, the bureaus of standards, the plant health inspectorate services to allow for traders and exporters and importers to access these services and make markets accessible for themselves. The other work that I talked about, so that is the supply side, what the government supplies to the private sector. But the other work that I mentioned is the demand side. And this is really the work that we do with private sector to try and improve their capacity to enable them to either dialogue with government or increase their capacity to be able to access export markets either within East Africa and beyond, supporting marginalized groups like women and small scale traders with information about where market opportunities lie and so forth. We also do work with government agencies to look at, and private sector in partnership, to look at investment opportunities. So we are looking at catalyzing investments into specific industrial parks at the coast of Kenya. We're also putting in a lot of effort into rehabilitating and putting in place the Gulu Logistics Hub. So a lot of the work that we did was around doing feasibility studies and doing preliminary construction of the logistics hub. And what this is going to do is that it's going to open up that market to logistics companies that may wish to set up to access the South Sudan market and northern Uganda areas and so forth. So this is some of the work that we do on the supply side when it comes to Trademark. The work that I personally do or lead on is looking at how we can...
Alan, I'm going to come back to you and ask for a bit more detail about the specific role. If I could just pause, because I want to reintroduce everyone. It's so exciting to hear, but thank you. It's so exciting to hear the breadth of experience we've got in this room. So we've got, Alan working on both the supply and the demand side, regulation, the policy side, but also enabling environment for SMEs. We've heard from Isam as well about kind of services available to SMEs, and from Ebtesam as well around kind of what's available and out there for SMEs to help them. I really now want to hear from some entrepreneurs themselves. So at AMI, we are passionate about entrepreneurs, and we're always excited to have entrepreneurs and business people in the room. So I'm now just going to introduce, in fact, before I do that, Manisha, bear with me for 1 minute. I just want to mention that we, of course, also have a live chat panel, a live chat platform going, and we would love to hear from the audience. So we've already got one comment from James Kanga, who says, how great is it to notice the participants acknowledging the important role played by SMEs to economic development. So absolutely, that's why we're here, because we believe in the importance of SMEs. I would love to encourage others who are listening in the audience to send over your questions. We want this panel to be really interactive, so I'm not going to wait till the end to take your questions. I'll take them as they come. I'd also love to understand who's in the room, the virtual room with us. So audience, feel free to just let us know who you are and what your particular, again, what's the perspective or the interest that you bring to this debate? Are you an SME who wants to know how to export either to Africa or to UAE? Are you a policymaker who wants to understand some of the debates happening and maybe wants to understand in more detail what entrepreneurs need? Or are you someone who has a service to offer to entrepreneurs and SMEs? We'd love to hear from you as well. So please do get those questions coming in. Okay, let's move over to Manish Sadana. Thank you so much for being patient, Manish. Manish is, in fact, I'm going to call him an entrepreneur. He's not an entrepreneur, doesn't run his own business, but he works in an entrepreneurial business. and has done some particularly interesting work around e-commerce. And of course, as we talk about opening up opportunities for SMEs and new markets, e-commerce represents a really exciting new market and new platform for doing business. So Manish Sadana is Managing Director of Squad Digital within the SCAN Group. Manish, tell us a little bit about you, about Squad Digital, and about what perspective you bring to this debate.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Thanks, Walid, for having me in the session today. Super exciting panel, as I heard other panelists speaking about themselves. So just to give you a brief introduction, so I'm Manish, as you probably know by now. I'm the Managing Director for Squad Digital, which is part of WPP SCAN Group, which is globally part of WPP. So WPP is the largest marketing and technology services company in the world. We're in about 222 countries, headquartered in London. So we represent WPP in Sub-Saharan Africa, and I look at the technology part of the business for Sub-Saharan Africa. And I think, why I am an employee of a large organization. I have sort of entrepreneurship in my blood. I come from India with a lot of tech startup experience for 7 years. So one of the things I wanted to do here was to build technology that can transform lives, and that's always been my passion. So with that in mind, so Kenya is very, very interesting because in Kenya, almost every consumer is an SME also. So we call them the hustlers here. So you probably be working for a full-time job, but then you also have a side business going on. So that's a very unique dynamic in Africa. What makes it really interesting then is that from a size and scale opportunity, from an SME perspective, this is a massive market. Because as I said, almost everyone is running a small business on the side. And one of the things that we noticed about the SME business was that these guys had very interesting products and services to offer. What these guys lacked was 4 things. One is access to technology. Second was access to markets. Third was access to knowledge. And fourth was access to finance. And we said, how do we leverage technology to bridge all those gaps together? And with that view in mind, we created this platform called Gooby. So Gooby is a very interesting name because Gooby is the name of the smallest fish in the world. So the idea was, the small fish gets eaten by the big fish. So we want to empower the small fish to be able to fight the big fish and give them access to everything that a big business would have at an extremely affordable cost. So the first starting point for us was that we need to give them some sort of an e-commerce platform that allows them to, upload their products and services and get their business out in the world and be able to access markets wherever. And the moment you're in e-commerce, of course, you're able to access markets across the world. So with that in mind, we launched this app called Gooby on Google Play Store in Kenya in March 2020. Of course, with just the time when COVID was starting, before the product we started developing was much before COVID. Of course, COVID accelerated the demand for the product. In 11 months, we've been able to sign up 18,000 small businesses who are running their e-commerce businesses using our platform today online. And so we started in Kenya. We've just launched the product in Tanzania. We are launching it in Zambia, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa. South Africa, in fact, we're launching March 31st. So in the next 3 to 4 months, the Gooby application will be available to businesses across multiple markets in Sub-Saharan Africa, where businesses will be able to create their e-commerce stores and run their businesses online. So that's really what I do.
This is so exciting.
Yeah, sorry, Rebecca.
Sorry, Manish. I just want to say on Mobi, just to summarize, so small businesses from across those markets that you just mentioned can sign up on Mobi, set up a kind of shop storefront and start trading. Currently only in Africa, am I right? And then you're thinking about potentially further afield as well.
Yeah, so just one correction. The platform is called Gooby. That's G-O-B-Y.
Gooby, sorry.
G-O-B-Y,
yes.
that's
G-O-B-Y, yeah.
Gooby, yeah. So the platform essentially is a full e-commerce platform. In terms, there are 2 fundamental sort of, elements that you need in the e-commerce platform from an accessibility perspective in multiple markets. So those 2 things are logistics, which is your delivery logistics, and the second thing is your payment gateways. So from a payment system, it can take Visa card, MasterCard. So today our merchants can get orders from Dubai, for example, and the problem that we haven't cracked from a sort of cross-border trade perspective is logistics. So we need to have a cross-border logistics partner who can ship those products across. So once we solve that, I think the opportunity is immense.
Wonderful. Well, on this panel,
so like from our perspective, I think
Go on.
Sorry,
go on.
can I go on?
Delay.
Yeah, so our perspective, what we bring to the table is technology that is affordable, that is accessible, and that is extremely user friendly, so that a very small business, someone who's selling cakes from your house, or someone who's selling bakery supplies from your house, should not have to worry about their ability to set up e-commerce websites. They don't need to have money. So for example, our monthly subscription for Gobi is just $3 a month. It's as accessible as that.
Great.
So
it's exciting to have on the same panel, expertise. It was great to hear Abdissam talking about, and Alan as well, talking about ports and the kind of physical infrastructure around export. And it's great to have your perspective as well around kind of how technology can help accelerate some of that. And of course, how the two might complement each other. So that's exciting. I love the idea of Gobi, the small fish that eats the big fish. That might become a bit of a theme for this conversation, perhaps. So Alphonse, coming to you, I'm sorry, and thank you so much for being patient while we work our way around the room. Alphonse Juma, who is an incredibly exciting Kenyan entrepreneur, started out as a small goby perhaps, but now is certainly eating some of the big fish around him. So Alphonse, welcome to the panel. Tell us about you. And about your business, and tell me a little bit what perspective, sorry, I should have said you're CEO and founder of palcity.com, so also a technology entrepreneur. Tell us what particular perspective you bring to this conversation as an entrepreneur in Kenya.
Thank you very much. My name is Alphonse Juma, and I'm the founder of Oracom Group. Basically, we've built 10 companies in one, and that is the Oracom Group. Our primary objective is to give companies an online presence. And from this conversation, I see as that company that is going to give us like the very beginning or the first baby steps to any company that is planning to get into the Kenyan market. And how we do this is we do it by helping them to, first of all, setting up in terms of simple things like domains, hosting, of which we work with the Kenyan registrar, KENIC, to give the .ke domains, and I'm really looking forward to us being able to support businesses on that. We also provide mobile solutions like bulk SMS. We do USSD integrations where we already have licenses, so we just plug and play into our system. Then after that, we have a company to build platforms on the internet, of which we can help you with the mobile app development or a website and all that. Then we help you to market. Of course, it's very, very important. And Rebecca, whenever a company is successful in a given boundary or country, it may not be really successful in another one. So the reason is always because you really need to understand the landscape. And we really do that by helping companies fully identify or understand data. So our company as Oracom Group, we are really rounded on data and just understanding data and helping small businesses and also big businesses to fully get a footing in the Kenyan market. Then the last thing we do is we help companies by training them. I know training and capacity is a very big thing, and we do training from digital marketing to any form of training, of which we've created a platform for it. It's called oradmt.com, and with that, any kind of trainer or mentor is able to just come in. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm here because of a platform that we built and put up. Rebecca, this has taken us, we started this in 2014, and it's been a marathon of development. I think the majority of it was during the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, when we were encouraged as entrepreneurs by the then US President Barack Obama, who said, we need to create solutions for the common man. So we started building in 2014, and so far we've built a social media platform. I know you may not really think about that, but we've just created a social media platform that puts Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp for business together, and the platform is called Palcity. And we called it Palcity because we just have a vision of creating a city of friends, where wherever you are, you're able to create something or join to the right-minded people, and then have yourself connected to the right people, so that you're able to grow your business either as an individual or as a business.
That's wonderful, Alphonse. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective, both as an entrepreneur and as an entrepreneur who's helping other entrepreneurs. So I think you're going to bring a really interesting, unique perspective on the Kenyan market. Great. Well, I just want to remind everyone listening, please, to send your questions for the panelists over. This is a great opportunity to ask your questions directly to people who know about trading and export. So particularly if you're an SME, if you have questions, please do send them over. But for now, I'm going to ask some questions. I want to dive in to you, Ebtissam, and ask you, obviously you've got expertise in Dubai, in UAE, you're able to see the kind of opportunities available. Can you just tell us a bit about what kind of opportunities are out there, particularly for African SMEs who might be looking to do business in the UAE, and potentially vice versa? Maybe you can kick us off with that question.
Thank you, Rebecca. As we all know, Africa is one of the fast emerging markets, and UAE is the second largest trade partner with, for example, Kenya, and one of the leading exporter to several African countries. More than 70% of the UAE-Kenya trade happens from Dubai, especially the oil products, F&B, textile, and many more of the products. Earlier this year, the MOU signed between Kenya and UAE is set to boost the bilateral ties between the two nations. So we see that as a great opportunities for the SMEs. This agreement.
Can I interrupt you briefly? Just that's really interesting. Can you tell us what does that mean practically for SMEs, that new agreement?
So it will provide the SMEs a platform to leverage from UAE as logistical hub to access the markets of the Middle East and Asia region. And our own initiative of UAE Africa Bridge is driven with an ambition to raise the UAE logistic value proposition to Africa investors by integrating DP World's assets from both sides to deliver and support across the entire supply chain of the SMEs and businesses in general in Africa.
Great. So you're offering this kind of logistic solution. So Manish, maybe you and Ebtissam need to talk to each other.
I see a great synergy between the participants today, if it's Mr. Manish or the very exciting entrepreneur, Mr. Jum'a, who provides the essential services and platforms for the small and medium enterprises in Africa.
Yeah, so you're able to then help solve that logistics piece. That's really exciting. I'm wondering if anyone else on the panel just wants to throw in a comment on that question, particularly, you know, in this time of COVID-19 and challenges and uncertainty and a lot of negativity. I just want to focus for a moment on what are the opportunities. Does anyone else want to throw in a view on that? What are the opportunities you think that this kind of are there for exports? Issam.
Yeah, if you allow me, Rebecca, please, to comment in addition to what Ebtissam has mentioned. I would just like to highlight that the government vision, if we all know the UAE, is how we can make the UAE the business hub of choice globally. So we have the favorable taxation environments, we have the educated workforce, which we have here in this country, plus we have the access to multiple financial resources and trading opportunities, and not to mention also the central location of UAE. So I believe the UAE is the ideal place for any international business to expand their businesses, whether in Etisalat or any other organization. Also, we are committed. So we are committed to enable these visions. We are committed to provide the propositions or services, products, offering a great value for money in this market. We are also designed to meet the unique needs of the SMEs and the startups. We continue to develop and implement comprehensive initiatives within the Etisalat to how we can simplify the setup and the growth, the challenges of SME can face. Example now for all our services, because we know that the cash is always an important aspect of any SMEs, so that we offer all our services based on the OPEX. So the SMEs do not need to invest instantly when he needs the services or product from Etisalat. We do have it all this on installment base, whether it goes 12, 18, or even the 24 months. And all our product and services are tailored based on the needs of the customer themselves, whether it's a customized products or ready-made products.
Thanks so much, Issam. I think we're going to come back. I want to pick that conversation about financing up again later. I'm interested, anyone else got any thoughts?
I think I would like to interfere, sorry.
Yes.
I think, see, we've been talking to Manish, we've been talking to Alfonso, we've been talking to Even I want an intervention from Dr. Henry as the CEO of Micro SME, because there is a huge amount of Kenyans who approach Dubai for small necessities all the way to big necessities. That's why now we are working together with Manish and Alfonso, and hopefully His Excellency Dr. Henry, to identify tools that can help in the empowerment of Kenyan youth, empowerment of micro SME, but also in supporting and developing product that from UAE to Kenya through a proper, the tools are available. E-commerce is now, even logistics. Now we figured it out. We know how to get product from UAE all the way to Kenya at very cost-effective way. So it's just a matter of how to do it. It's, we've been there. Sorry.
No, go on, Waleed. Go on.
I mean, we figured it out. Now is how to bring all these parties, Jabal Ali, Freezone, all the concerned people. And I want also to hear Dr. Henry's thought, because I think he's the regulator and the facilitator as well.
What was that, sorry?
Dr. Henry, the CEO of Micro SME, I think he might have a thought as well.
Yes, if he's still on the line and available, we would love to hear from you, Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Rebecca and Harrison. I'm sitting in for Dr. Henry. Mr. Henry has just stepped out briefly on official assignment, but he'll be back. So maybe I can make a brief contribution on his behalf. I'm Evans Bulut for the sake of the team. I'm in enterprise development at the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority in Kenya. So I like the conversation that we've had. I must also acknowledge the SME who has made his presentation. His solutions are actually timely and important for this sector. So as Mr. Waleed has rightly said, the solutions available are actually available. What you need to move to is actions to implement these solutions. So we know for instance, the e-commerce platform is a solution to access to markets globally. That solution was available prior to COVID, right? But how have we actually actualized the implementation of e-commerce? And in the previous discussion that Mr. Waleed had with Mr. Henry, there was the discussion around linkages, first B2B sessions between the two countries, and then the linkages, so that first we create awareness to our SMEs on these platforms which are available, because they actually are e-commerce platforms. But the knowledge to an ordinary MSC in Kenya on the availability of these platforms is what is lacking. Number two, how do they need to prepare their products for them to access this market? Because these markets are available, and they're not, and the two countries are aware of that on paper. But how has that information cascaded down to the SMEs? So I think going forward, we'll need to move these solutions from discussion based on what solutions are there, but to actionize these solutions.
Let's use these solutions. Well, we're lucky to have lots of information here today about what these solutions are, and I'm hoping there are SMEs in the audience who are listening and checking out some of these solutions and thinking about how how you can use technology to get access to new customers and markets. So thank you, Waleed, so much for just highlighting that.
Rebecca, let me be the moderator a little bit and turn it aside. How can AMI play a role? See, you cannot run away from this question. How can AMI?
Waleed is turning the tables on me here.
No, you have to. You should have expected this question. No, in a very short way, because also you are an SME, you are an SME supporter. You know, when we picked you, we wanted to do this with you. We didn't tell you about it, but now we are doing it. Tell us how you're going to help SME. Yeah. You know, you are putting the pressure on my speakers. Now I have to put pressure on you.
That's very fair. That's very fair. If you can't take the fire, get out of the kitchen, right? So Yeah, so thanks, Walid. So Walid and I met actually because my company AMI was running, during COVID-19, we were running survival boot camps for SMEs. So we've worked with over 30,000 SMEs across Africa now, and we provide practical tools and training for those SMEs to enable them to strengthen their businesses so that they can withstand some of the challenges of the kind of environment we're facing right now, but also set themselves up to grow in the future. So for example, we help them get their finances organized. We provide them with simple tools to help them navigate their finances and kind of track their finances and make better decisions. We help them with tools that can turn them into better managers so that they can manage and build their teams. And of course, then accessing markets as well, helping entrepreneurs understand who their customer is, how they can reach that customer and how they can provide real value. So that's what we do at AMI. You can check us out at www.africanmanagers.org. That's African with an N and .org. And if you look at /Thrive, THRIVE, you can access our free community for SMEs, where we have regular networking events. We have fireside sessions with successful entrepreneurs who tell them about their journey, and we provide you with access to some free tools as well. So yeah, do feel free to get involved. And I think it really struck me, who was it who said that there were, I think it was Manish who said there are 4 things that SMEs really need, that you identified that they need: access to technology, access to markets, access to finance, access to knowledge. So at AMI, we're really focused around access to knowledge, but also the kind of skills and tools that can help SMEs really thrive. And we love connecting with partners like, the other people in this conversation who are experts around access to technology, to markets, and possibly to finance as well. So that's our role in this conversation. Thank you for giving me that opportunity, Walid. Am I allowed to turn the microphone back to our panelists now?
Sure.
Maybe Rebecca can say one thing.
Yes, please, Alphonse. Yeah.
I think through MI also, myself have been a beneficiary from that for the yearly program that is Young African. Yeah, I went through the program, and the majority of what we covered there really helped me. So I think from the panel here, I've benefited from that, and then also from the KCB Lions Den in 2019 also. We had a lot of sessions with their team. So
yes, Alphonse.
Very tough.
Alphonse is being a bit modest. Alphonse, you were a finalist or you were a winner of the KCB Lions Den competition?
Winner.
A winner, of course. I thought so.
Rebecca, now he has to give back. Huh? He's now a millionaire, so he has to give back. Huh?
Now he has to give back. Wonderful. For those of you outside of Kenya, Lions Den is a little bit like Shark's Tank in the US or Dragon's Den in the UK. It's our TV program here that showcases successful and ambitious entrepreneurs like Alphonse. And yeah, so congrats, Alphonse. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that slight tangent there. I'd love to just get back to, I think this is just to summarize a really important point there around the opportunity, particularly COVID-19 has accelerated digital adoption, particularly in African markets, but I think everywhere, and the opportunity for SMEs to leverage e-commerce to access new markets. So if you're an SME and you're listening to that, I really want to encourage you to look into that. If you're not already online and selling and marketing online, please do look into that, and you can check out some of the solutions mentioned by Manish, by Alphonse, and some of the others on the panel as well. Alan, perhaps I can come back to you now. So we've talked quite a bit about the opportunities. What do you think are some of the barriers for SMEs looking to access new markets? And how has COVID-19 exacerbated these? Do you think it's an enabling environment, a kind of regulatory issue, or is it a capacity issue on the side of the SMEs?
Thanks, Rebecca, and some really good conversation, especially the discussion around, using digital platforms to access markets. That's an area that Trademark East Africa is also getting involved in quite heavily. So I think it's a discussion that perhaps Alphonse and I can take bilaterally, just to see what we can, what kind of solutions or what we can do to help, drive the agenda forward. We have some work that we're doing with KEPSA around digital market spaces. So all these solutions that I think people are trying to come up with, we have the scope to see how we can take it regional across East Africa and create those opportunities and break those barriers for businesses. So I think it would be good to just sort of like see how we can connect after with Alphonse and Manish and just see how we can make these solutions available to SMEs. But coming back to the question around what are some of the challenges that SMEs are facing? I think if we look at the world right now, one of the biggest assets that a business can have is information or data, or what you might call knowledge as well. And I think SMEs do struggle with this information. We have large corporations such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, and so forth that are collecting a lot of digital information, and this digital information is now being sold to whoever has the capacity to buy this, so that marketing can be targeted to specific audiences. So I think SMEs do suffer from the lack of having this information in terms of where market opportunities lie, what needs are there in that specific market, and I think this is a big hindrance to them. There's also another internal factor that SMEs do suffer from. They do suffer from capacity issues, and to be able to produce quality enough products that would meet the standards in the markets that they want to target. That's another aspect. There's obviously the issue of access to finance and capital to expand to new territories and new markets. When I look at the opportunities of doing business in Kenya for SMEs, the process of registering a business is quite easy, but then the process of getting that business actually running and operational is actually quite onerous. And so I can imagine an SME going through this process and then thinking of they have to go through the same process in terms of accessing international markets. This is something that perhaps dissuades them from wanting to grow their business to international markets. So these are just some of the internal factors that I can think of that I think are barriers to entry for SMEs into new markets. When we look at external factors, we have issues such as regulations from the countries which SMEs want to target. You could look at issues such as SPS issues that are affecting opportunities for entry for SMEs into these new markets. There are procedural barriers, issues to do with customs processes, issues to do with difficulty in understanding customs documentation for these SMEs in the markets that they want to access. The other area that I would think is quite critical for SMEs is difficulty in enforcing contracts and resolving disputes in new markets. And this is something that we see every other time, and you end up getting into quite expensive litigation if one is not careful. So I think these are some of the barriers that I would think affects entry into new markets. Of course, then from a global perspective, we've had security affect in how we travel and how we interact with one another. You now need issues such as obtaining visas, quotas, and limitations in terms of how long you can stay in a particular country. So all these things restrict movement of people, business persons, and so forth. And this is a hindrance in terms of how we access markets. Then if you look at foreign currency exchange risks.
Sorry, one moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you just to bring in a few other people. This is really
Yeah.
interesting. So Alan's highlighted a few key barriers here. I'd love to see if we can try and dismantle some of these barriers between us on this call. So we're going to be ambitious. We're not just going to talk. We're going to see if we between us can find some solutions to overcome these barriers. So you mentioned, Alan, and do supplement me where I've missed something, but you mentioned data. So it's really difficult for SMEs to access data to be able to identify market opportunities. That's such a great point. One of our most popular courses, in fact, is around helping entrepreneurs identify new market opportunities, and it's a real challenge. So there's that data and market visibility. We've got capacity issues. So a lot of these SMEs just, aren't, it's easy to start a business, like you say, harder to run one successfully. Again, that's something that we're looking at. Sounds like Alphonse also is doing some training and development there. Customs and understanding customs. I think we've got some expertise here. Ebtisam maybe could speak to that. Finance, I think maybe Issam mentioned finance earlier on, if anyone else has got thoughts on finance. And then enforcing contracts and issues. I'd love to hear if there's anyone in the room who's got expertise around helping SMEs with some of these contractual, legal, regulatory issues as they go into new markets. So lots of questions in one there. Does anyone want to jump in with a possible solution to one of the barriers that Alan has raised? Manish. Oh, sorry, Ebtisam, and then we'll come to Manish.
Go ahead, Manish.
Go ahead, Ebtisam.
All right, cool. All right, cool. So I think we being technology people, we look at how do we leverage technology to solve a lot of these problems that have been talked about today. So of course, we cannot solve all problems like regulatory problems and procedural problems, but there are a lot of problems that technology can enable to solve. So I can address a couple of them, right? So in terms of access to markets and getting access to new customers, someone talked about the lack of data availability in terms of identifying the right markets and right opportunities. So between Facebook and Google, they have all the data that you need in terms of identifying opportunities from a marketing and sales perspective. So we're building a plugin within the Gobi app where the SME, all he has to do is input his budget, okay, and the duration, for which he wants to run the campaign. And the system algorithms will automatically understand what products he's selling and use that data to identify potential markets, potential customers, and run their campaigns online and for them to get new customers. So we can use technology to automate a lot of that. Now, when it comes to access to finance, because we have a large number of SMEs using Gobi, so in the last 10 to 12 months, we've had about $400,000 worth of sales that we know between SMEs they've generated online using the Gobi platform. So we have a lot of data in terms of what's the cash rollover, what's the inventory size, what's the sales turnover of all these SMEs. We are using those data points to create access to mobile lending, which is massive, in sub-Saharan Africa. Rebecca, if you're from Kenya, you know that. It's very simple for people to buy, money online. Banks are extremely willing to lend money to SMEs, just that they don't have adequate amount of data in terms of their sales and inventory and stuff like that. Yeah. So Gobi can aggregate a lot of that data. Gobi can aggregate a lot of that data around sales, and then use that data to create possible, projections for banks to be able to lend them credit online directly on the Gobi platform. So there are two problems: access to markets and access to finance that we feel that we can use technology to solve.
That's an absolutely fascinating point. We hear that all the time as well from the SMEs we work with and the finance partners that we work with as well, that the biggest barrier, as you say, for SMEs accessing finance is often not having data as well about their own business. So if they're able, through an e-commerce platform, to be able to better kind of track their sales and also come with kind of evidence of those sales to finance providers, I think that would be a really valuable tool in helping unlock access to finance. So a wonderful point, Manish. Thank you so much. I think Ebtisam, I was coming to you next.
Thank you. So I just wanted to address the customs barrier that Alan mentioned. At DP World and Javza, we work as an advisor for our potential clients. So we clarify all the points that are related to customs, the clearances that they need from different authorities to get their goods, transit between one location and another. What I would also like to mention here is that during the pandemic months, we identified and addressed our customers' challenges and needs through many initiatives that we have created, such as Manassa, Zadi, electronic delivery order, Digital Freight Alliance, and World Logistics Passport that was introduced by one of the earlier sessions this morning. So many initiatives were taking place during the pandemic to support SMEs and to support our customers to overcome the challenges when it comes to digitalization and to overcome the barrier of traveling from one country to another.
Sorry, you would have thought by now I would have learned the unmute trick. Ebtisam, thank you so much. Just tell us, just before we forget, where would, so as any SMEs who are listening who want to learn more about this and specifically these issues of kind of contracts, can they just find you online? Would you just repeat the name of your organization just so I can point people
it's
to?
JAFZA, so they can log into javza.ae, JAFZA.ae, or dpworld.com.
dpworld.com. Great. So if you've got those specific questions around kind of contractual issues, the customs issues, get in touch with Ebtisam and her team. Wonderful. I am just going to read a few questions that we've got coming in from the audience.
Rebecca, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, maybe I can just add something very quickly. Yeah, very quickly on the customs management issue. I think at this point it's important that I mention that as Trademark East Africa, there's one ambitious project which we have been working on maybe for a year or two, and we're trying to see how we can scale it up. It's been on trial basis, and this is something we call a trade logistics information pipeline. And what this basically does is that it creates a digital pipeline where all the import and export processes are put onto a digital pipeline that is backed up by blockchain technology. So if you are an importer or an exporter, you lodge all your documents onto that platform, and you can see at every stage where the document is. So if it's moved from customs, from the revenue authority, and it has service level agreements in terms of how long it should be treated in a particular department. So this is also going to create a lot of efficiency in terms of creating that predictability for an exporter or an importer in terms of how long does your documentation take before it is addressed or before your issue is resolved and your product gets then access into that market. So this is a product that we are working on, and we hope that maybe we can launch it maybe within the next maybe year or two, and have it fully tested and piloted between East Africa and the rest of the world, and then see how we can roll it out for East African traders, mainly importers and exporters. Thank you.
That's very exciting, Alan. I'm going to, if I might, name the elephant in the room, I guess, around trade, which is of course potential for corruption. And I'm guessing, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that blockchain technology would be used precisely to address some of those concerns, really increase the transparency as well, and remove opportunity for potential corruption around importing and exporting. Is that the case? And do tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, you're absolutely right. I think one of the issues that makes corruption bad is the lack of transparency and unnecessary bureaucracy that is brought about through manual processes. By eliminating manual processes, you have clarity in terms of why your documentation is being held in a certain office or why it has not moved to the next stage. And this helps, and what you need to do to make your documentation move on to the next process. So I think you're right in suggesting that this will also help in not just in terms of improving efficiency, but also in bringing about accountability, transparency, and reducing effects of corruption that may come as a result of manual processes.
Yeah, because I think that's something I know as a business owner myself, that's something that can feel intimidating about kind of new markets and new systems that you don't understand. Some SMEs might be worried about navigating. So that's really good news. I hope, Alan, that we'll stay in touch and you'll let us know when this portal is ready so that we can share it with our SMEs, and I'm sure Walid will.
Absolutely.
SME.
Absolutely.
Sounds really exciting. I would love if panelists, I totally understand this is quite a long panel. If you need to drop off for a few moments, that's fine. When you are at your desk, it would be wonderful if we could keep videos on where possible, just because it enables to have a more interactive conversation where possible. But I understand that you might need to pop out from time to time. Thank you so much for indulging me. I appreciate that. So I want to read a comment that's come in from the platform. So this is from Dr. Edna Ngari, who says, it would be interesting to hear about trade for those in the service industry. So we've talked a lot about e-commerce, importing of products, challenges at the border and the ports. What about service industries? Does anyone want to, potentially, I don't know, Issam, maybe you want to take that, telecoms service company. Anyone else want to jump in with a comment on advice for entrepreneurs, particularly in service industries?
Absolutely, Rebecca. Telco providers have a huge role, especially to play on the success of the SMEs enterprises. The current business climate with the impact of COVID-19 has changed things. For us, as a core part of the shift and a way of working, is to increase the digital. I heard most of the panelists have mentioned regarding the digital tools and the digital interaction, and we as Etisalat also have been working a lot of how we can increase the digital tools to interact with the customers, and this is where we as a telecom providers comes in. To embrace this new digital way of working, the SMEs need faster connectivity. And also they need a new set of products from the telecos. People are changing how they are communicating and rely on technologies in new ways. Technology will play a more, I'll say, profound role than it did before the crisis. We as Etisalat have maintained a diverse and effective business models offering added value to our customers to meet and exceed their expectations by launching of different products, a variety of innovative offers, and also services within the UAE. Currently, we as Etisalat serving more than 300 SMEs in these countries, working closely with them on their digital transformation journey. We have worked with them on tailoring solutions for the SMB sectors to deliver the best possible value and also competitive offering, empowering the customers by providing them with a variety of services, products, and also the services. Since the start of the pandemics, what we have done in Etisalat, we have been doing everything to ensure that the business continuity for the SMEs in line with the UAE efforts to ensure the public health and safety. These are based on the SMEs requirements of virtual meetings, for example, the cloud video surveillance we have launched recently, analytics, which are also coming out from this cloud, from the CCTVs, data, everybody was talking about the data, so you can use the data which come from the CCTV to analyze your product, your services. And also, as I had mentioned before, the monthly usage of voice minutes, because the mobility also very, very important for the SMEs. So we come up with a monthly usage of voice minutes, device purchases, postpaid plans. So as an overall, connectivity it's an important more than ever before. And as a provider, we really we have the vital infrastructure within Etisalat. We are committed in keeping its valuable to our customers, employees, and also the society, and to support the unprotected demand for the connectivities and help business stay connected. We came up with a wide range of mobile data plans. We come up with a wide range of design plans. We come up with a wide range of bundles, along with the access and unified communication. Everything, all the solutions are easy access and also throughout the cloud. So all these type of solutions and services and providers, the telecom provider can help and support the SMEs.
Great. Issam, it's exciting to hear about the opportunities, I guess, for particularly those in the service industries to run their businesses fully virtually. I mean, that's what it sounds like you're saying, that, potentially as a Kenyan entrepreneur, I could come to Dubai, run my company, get hooked up with you, Etisalat, get the help that I need, and potentially not actually even physically need to be in Dubai all that much. I think Dr. Edna Ngari, who asked the question, is actually in the wellness space. So I imagine, Dr. Ngari, that you actually might need to be there physically. You could potentially access some of the health and safety information that Issam mentioned, but hopefully that's given you some ideas and some inspiration. So I believe, Walid, maybe I'll just check with you. I'm getting a message saying it's time to wind up soon. I know you had said 1:40, but
I think we are at the last stage. So probably let's say 2 minutes if you want to go through. Yeah, if you want to go through the audience. I have just one small question to Ibtisam, if you don't mind.
Yes, please go ahead.
Do you guys have any SME packages for companies if I want to company from Kenya?
Of course. So I have mentioned earlier that we're working on UAE Africa Bridge, where we have come up with a package for SMEs. We have created a physical space for an incubation center for Africa in particular that will give them a substantial discount on the setup cost for the new companies, and to start from the incubation center just to test the market, see how they can easily find their market share in Jebel Ali and UAE and the region, the wider region, and we will help them, of course, as part of this package along the way to tackle any challenges when it comes to their trade routes or when it comes to the registration of their goods in with the relevant authority in UAE.
So should we set up Kenya Export Promotion Center in Jebel Ali? That's what you say?
Yes, why not?
Okay. I think I bring it back to you, Rebecca, just to...
Great.
If you have any question to any of the audience.
Deal making being done during this panel. This is wonderful. So we're going to start. We're going to start winding up the discussion. Janelle and Faith, do feel free to send through any other questions from the audience. But we're going to start winding up. I'm going to ask each panelist just to wind up by giving me one piece of advice to an entrepreneur who's looking to do business between UAE and Africa in 2021. So what would you advise an entrepreneur who wants to do business? You can either direct your advice to maybe a Kenyan entrepreneur who wants to come and do business in Dubai, or vice versa to an entrepreneur in UAE who wants to come do business in Africa. And answer the question from your own perspective. But what piece of advice would you give the hungry entrepreneurs out there with ambitions to conquer the world? Where should we start? Should we start, Alphonse, with you? Oh, maybe we'll come back to Alphonse. Oh no, he's there. Wonderful. Alphonse, off you go.
Thank you very much. I think in line with what we have done, which is more of connecting communities, what we've done is we've built a platform that creates more communities and gives people a bigger chance. Because if you are an entrepreneur and you're just starting, there's so many mistakes that you're going to make in line. As you run your business. For example, myself, I've done this almost 10 years, and it's been a host of mistakes. So there's need to be like a platform that can be able to give people a place where you can learn from the people who have gone through the same journey. And we've exactly created a similar thing on pulsecity.com, where we simply create communities of people and give them mentors who are able to work with them along the journey. And then this becomes very important because at any given time, I don't need to rely on just the people I know. Like social media would give you just the friends, your own friends. But how about if I'm connected to people who are from different boundaries and different countries, like I connected to Walid? Yeah, so such things can be made easy if there's a platform that can be able to just help you connect and just help you be able to speak out. Because sometimes we make mistakes, or sometimes we need partnerships. And you just don't know where to start from. If you have a mentor who has gone through that journey, if you have a platform that is able to give you that, then that becomes so easy for you as an entrepreneur. And that's exactly the same thing that we built on pulsecity.com.
Alphonse, thank you so much. So essentially you're saying your advice to entrepreneurs out there is to get a mentor, find people who've done this, who've journeyed this, been on this journey before you, and particularly if they've potentially been on the export journey. So we'd really encourage any entrepreneurs out there, do seek out support. There is support out there. So check out palcity.com. I want to also just, if I may, do a very quick plug for an AMI program that's coming up that just speaks to this point. We have a program about to launch called Survive to Thrive. The program is really about walking with entrepreneurs, bringing entrepreneurs together with others to walk this journey of surviving the challenges of COVID-19 and setting ourselves up to thrive in the future. So if you're looking for that kind of mentorship and support and comradeship as well with other entrepreneurs, I'd really encourage you to sign up. You can learn more at africanmanagers.org/S2T. The S for sugar, to the number T. So yeah, and there's scholarships available, particularly for women-owned entrepreneurs. So please do get in touch. I've got a quick question for you, Alan. Before I ask you to give your one piece of advice to an entrepreneur, I've also just got a question who's just come in from one of my colleagues, actually, Joanne Kamau, who's at AMI here in Kenya, who asks, do you have any support specifically for female entrepreneurs, for women-owned businesses? We know that women entrepreneurs particularly have had challenges through COVID-19. Do you have any particular support for those kind of businesses?
Thanks, and that's really timely. Yes, we do actually have a program that focuses on supporting marginalized groups. So that is specifically focusing on SMEs. You will recall when I was doing the introduction, I did say we do have a program that focuses on supporting women traders, women cross-border traders, women SMEs that are looking at market opportunities beyond their countries in East Africa. So we do work with those kinds of groupings. However, the only thing is that to make the benefits reach as many women as possible, we do work through groups. So we don't work necessarily with individuals, but we do work, say, with a group of women that are targeting a specific market or are organized into an association that are interested in, say, accessing a particular market. We would then work with them to understand what are their challenges in terms of accessing those markets. What kind of support do they need? Is it to improve the quality of their products? Is it to improve, to help them understand the export processes and so forth? And we do build their capacity from that point of view for them to access those markets. We work with other institutions like Fresh Produce Exporters of Kenya. We've worked with them on the global gap so that people in the agricultural sector, both men and women, can access European and international markets for their fresh produce. We've partnered with the Export Promotion Council in the past on making information accessible for exporters. So yes, we do have different interventions and initiatives, and some of them specifically target marginalized groups like women who have, unfortunately, time poverty, splitting time between families, between their businesses and so forth. So yes.
Tell me about it, Alan. Tell me about it. We learned to multitask as women. Ebtisam, do you have one piece of advice for an entrepreneur who wants to get, an ambitious entrepreneur who wants to get into export-import?
Okay, so Rebecca, the pandemic, the recent pandemic has brought nations, economics, markets together like nothing before. So if there is any piece of advice I will give, I'll just second your advice and what Dr. Jum'a or Mr. Jum'a has mentioned earlier is collaboration. We at DP World, we believe in collaboration, and SMEs in particular, they will need the support from governments, from banks, from each other. get the benefit from all the support that Rebecca or Alan here or Mr. Juma is offering. And of course, we at JAVZA, Jebel Ali Freezone, will give you all the support that you need to establish your company and to tackle any challenges that you might have in your supply chain.
That's wonderful, Ebtisam. Thank you so much. I think there's a bit of a theme emerging here, isn't there, around the ecosystem of support for entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have to do this alone. There is an ecosystem of people out there ready to help you. So thanks so much, Ebtisam. Appreciate that. Isam, I think, so Manish unfortunately has had to drop off, but I expect that he would tell us to go and visit his e-commerce site, which is gobi.shop. So Isam, would you wind up just with one final word of advice for ambitious entrepreneurs, and then Walid will hand back to you.
Sure. My final comments to all SMEs is that you are the key players in the economy. You need to be enabled and adapt and succeed in more open environments. And what I recommend to all SMEs that you need to participate more actively, and especially when it comes to the digital transformations. As Ebtisam said, the UAE has the most advanced infrastructure. It's a home, especially today, it's a home of the fastest mobile network in the world, which is another factor that makes the UAE one of the attractive countries for SMEs to help boost their digital transformation journey. And you have mentioned regarding what do we have for the females. I forgot to mention and to highlight that we in Etisalat also having a program, which we mainly call it Hello Business Pitch. It's mainly focusing on the startups where we are able to, where the business customers can pitch their ideas in front of the juries. And we are nominating those winners at the end of the programs where they will be funding with the X amounts of dirhams at the end of the programs. Last year the winner was out of 350,000 dirhams as the support from Etisalat to help him start his businesses, in addition to the value of kind of services we provide to the customer. So there is an opportunity, a huge opportunity in this country, and especially in UAE and Africa, and I encourage everybody to grab it and wish you all the best.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isam. Let's finish on that note of opportunity and positivity, that there are opportunities out there. We really encourage any SMEs listening to go seize them, get the help that you need, build your ecosystem, build your support system. There are a lot of people out there keen to help you. So Walid, thank you so much for having me as your guest. I've really appreciated it. Thank you so much to the panelists, Ebtisam, Alan, Alphonse, Isam, and in absence, also Manish. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your openness and your willingness to engage around this topic. It's been a great conversation. Walid.
I basically would like to thank all of the panelists, starting with you and for your beautiful moderating. I think you guys enlightened the SME community. I think we need to do more of this to create cooperation. It's not a one thing, but we need to continue working on creating that linkage. I think it's important for Dubai to make that connectivity. Also, I would like to express my thanks to His Excellency Juma Al-Kate, Assistant Minister of Economy, and also Honorable Lawrence Karanja for that remarkable keynote. But also would like to thank DP World and JAVZA for their support to us, as well as Etisalat for their continued support to make this connectivity working. Today we actually, the good news is to end it with that we hit yesterday mark. So that shows that there is an interest and there is a connectivity happening, and these topics are very important for them. Thank you very much for being patient with us, and hopefully we see you tomorrow for e-commerce and perishable and horticulture, which is also two important points for business growth for both countries. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walid. As we end our session of Freezone and Investment, I would like to acknowledge and thank today's sponsor, DP World, our co-sponsor, Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, and DT World. Thank you. To all our distinguished guests and participants, thank you for joining us. Once again, we're inviting you to attend tomorrow for our third day, which will cover e-commerce. We look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at the same time. Thank you.